And yeah, you see, that's why we have those conversations. Michael Burnham, be or Wendell. I mean, you can't.
Michael Burnham.
Cannot prove me wrong.
Yes. You cannot prove Michael Burnham wrong either.
This is true. Ladies, gentlemen, guys and gals, and you beautiful non-binary pals, welcome to Off the Bridge, the sci-fi and kind of Star Trek based podcasty talk, shall we thing?
Space-based.
It's space-based, and it's episode 3, which means, as promised, this definite first time originally done and only the first time recorded attempt at episode 3 for Star Trek Discovery season 3. I think we made it through it okay. So today's lineup is we are going to be talking as best as possible about as much of season 3 as possible. We're going to get all of the episodes in. Some we're gonna kind of like shoot through as quick as we can. We're gonna give you like brief bits and pieces, you know, like the little TLDRs, and some we're gonna go into more depth with reasons and notes and stuff and things.
Stuff and things.
I myself, if you guys don't know, I am Jay, joined as always by Mon Capitan
Michael Burnham. Hi.
And yeah, this is going to be an adventure today. Excuse me. It's going to be an adventure. It's going to be interesting. So before we get started, I just want to say I hope you guys enjoy. Please feel free to throw us your opinions down in the comments, and you know, do the whole likey scribey thingy majiggy what's it's. I said that wrong deliberately.
Click a few buttons.
Yes.
Do a couple of things.
Do them things, or we will beat you up. We won't beat you up. We're going with the meta. He might, yeah. In fact, he probably will. He'll bite your kneecaps. Anyways, so Discovery season 3. Michael Burnham.
Michael Burnham.
Gives us episode 1 of season 3. For you who do not know, final episode even of season 2 ended with Discovery and Michael flying the Red Angel suit. Discovery flying close behind through a wormhole-y thing through time, leaving a big kapoo-poo battle that just happened, and Spock on an asteroid being totally not sad and emotional because he's a Vulcan and they don't do that after a battle with Control, because we all remember Control was fantastic, wasn't it? And the start of episode 1 of season 3, That Hope Is You, part 1, which we always thought we were going to get a part 2 of, but I don't think we did. Arriving in the... Michael arrives 930 years in the future. Burnham investigates a galaxy she no longer recognizes while searching for the rest of the Discovery crew. I'm going to let you take this one, because I know how much you enjoyed this episode and certain parts of it. Fire away. Why was it good? Why was it bad? What's the TLDR, I guess?
Well, TLDR is essentially it's 50 minutes of the Queen, Michael Burnham, essentially looking for Discovery because she's lost it. Don't know how you lose a ship that big, but she did it.
It's Burnham.
Yeah, we needed a story, and she's lost an entire crew.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't be the first time that's happened in Star Trek, but yeah, it's basically just 50 minutes of Burnham, and she comes through the wormhole, and you know, she crashes the suit, and but obviously she asks the suit as well. She's like, "Am I the only survivor?" Because she's wondering where her crew is gone, and the suit's like, "No, there is life over here. You made it." And then she's all very happy, and we get a nice little 5-minute scene of Happy Michael.
Happy Michael was good. Happy Michael was pretty
nice.
good.
She lets out that little scream that is just so raw, and it's like 10 minutes into the episode or something.
Like, you almost feel like that was unscripted, and it was just like just how good it was. It almost feels like it was like a non-scripted part. It was just like, you kind of would think that Shaniqua was just like, "Yep, this is happening. let's rip. And they just go, you know what? Yeah, print it, keep it, do it. I'm for it.
Sinequa was just absolutely fabulous this episode. It was just 50 minutes of raw talent.
Honestly,
and we
the bit where she's tripped out of her mind and just tripping balls on truth serum was probably the best part of the entire episode for me, I think. But this was just for the start of an episode was,
I think,
very good.
We see Michael go through about 8 different emotions over the course of like 45 minutes.
For someone who was brought up to be emotionless and Vulcan, she very, very, very quickly got rid of that in this season. Like, that just went out the window. That Vulcan training was just like, yeah, bye, Sarek, you're in the past now, so bye. Screw you and your teachings, bye. He's a bad dad anyway, bye. You're like 0 for 3 on kids, bye. So, in this episode, we get introduced to who, at the time, a few people I was talking to thought would be a one-and-done throwaway character in Booker, whatever you want to call him. We only thought it just because it was like the story was kind of like, yeah, it's you know, it's good, but it's not a guy that you would think would come back. You know, he's hauling some kind of space alien thingy that lets him do warp speed without damaging the planet or something, the universe or whatever it was. I cannot remember that exactly because it's been a while since I have watched it, I'm not gonna lie. But he's like smuggling it in the exhaust vents of the ship, which was really cool. Absolutely loved seeing that.
Yeah.
Like I said, Burnham being out of her mind and just tripping balls on truth serum was amazing. That's some great acting from Shaniqua right there. Apologies for the freaking pings, because it's always the way, right? Always the way. When we record, people bug us. I thought I dealt with that. Pro show, guys and girls. And yeah, it was a really decent opening, because, you know, we had like little cameos from our Cardassian boys. Anyone who's watched, anyone who's listened to this knows how big the Cardassians are here. There's going to be the Ballad of Gul Dukat at episode 5 or episode 10. And then we're going to have Make Cardassia Great Again. So they're going to be some pretty decent episodes. You know, we get the introduction of Grudge, because why not?
You sound so upset about that.
There's not really much you can say. It's a cat. I don't like. Sorry.
She's a queen.
She is a queen, granted. And don't get me wrong, I've started saying that about my cat ever since. But what exactly did Grudge bring us, other than the fact of cat?
Excuse you.
What was their
she's
story?
Brilliant.
Oh, hell yes, but what's their story?
Do you not know that she's bomb-proof?
I mean, other than that.
Like, when he crashes his ship later on, and then he's like, Grudge is safe and sound. Like, what is that cat or cat bed made of? Like, he crashed his ship and that cat just walks out.
Ah.
Yeah.
Well, you know.
She's explosion-proof. And she's heavy and all his. I love that as a description. Michael just raises her eyebrow and she's like, why? Because she's heavy and all mine. It's like, you're so edgy, Buck. Ooh.
This is true. This is very true.
Buck's been on Space Tumblr.
Or Space Tinder, just looking for that girl that appreciates his beautiful, beautiful cat. So yeah, as well as giving us the beautiful kitty and some of the other bits and pieces, it introduces us to new technology, i.e. the way Book's ship goes. We have Burnham crashing, literally the epitome of a freaking meet cute in Burnham directly smashing into Book's ship at the start and then crashing to the planet. You know, well, it's Burnham. She's obviously going to survive, because what is Star Trek without Burnham?
True, all of them.
It introduces us to, I believe it's the first actual mention of the burn, without it mentioning the burn, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because like they mention that dilithium is scarce at this point, so
It was very Trek typical vagueness.
yes,
With the burn.
It was true modern Trek vagueness of the whole. It's a thing that's happened, but we're not gonna tell you just yet because we're setting up an underlying story arc.
You'll have to get to episode 10 for us to tell you what it actually is.
Oh boy,
Yeah.
episode 10. That is a thing. When we get to episode 10, that is a thing. But yeah, like it was decent. We got the exchange. We got Michael tripping balls on truth serum. We got to see new technology, what we're in for. Finding out new characters, new ideals. We get mentions of the Orion Syndicate and how they're going to influence the story. And
I like that.
I have to admit, I think it was pretty decent. It was definitely better for an opening season episode. It's been a bit hit and miss on most of them. Vulcan Hello was probably its best start. Everything else,
Yeah, a Vulcan Hello was a nice way to open a show.
because it kind of gave you what's gonna be happening ahead of time as far as Discovery goes. So having all these extras kind of comparing to that isn't fair, of course, but I think they did a pretty decent job with this one, because it sort of started to establish where the 30th century is going to be and where we're going with exactly what Discovery Season 3 is going to be. I know we're missing out a lot on this, but we've got a lot to fill. We've got quite a few things that we're going to be talking about at length. So, bear with us if we forget some of the important parts. I do apologize. I mean, we've planned for a while, and we know we are going to miss so much of Season 3. There could be some really good little bits that we miss. So please, point them out in the comment section. I really appreciate it. Whether you are listening to us, on YouTube or Breaker or Anchor or Google or any of the amazing podcast sites that host this channel right now, except, Apple, because screw Apple. So, episode 2, Far From Home.
Oh, another thing I want to mention about episode 1 as well,
Yes.
is just how they introduced Book.
Oh,
So that was very
yeah.
non-Star Trek, because he just turned up and he was immediately a bitch for no reason.
I think that's why I kind of gravitated towards him, because I was like, this guy, he's a nice bitch. I like him. He's
Because I get why he was a bitch in the sense that he's living in hard times and stuff, but he crashed into Michael, and then when she asked for help, was like, no. You just crashed into her, and her suit and everything is just destroyed. She just wants a lift, and he's like, well, and he says this really nice line, and I can't remember exactly, but it's the one where he's like, oh, everyone has a story. And it's kind of sets him up, and you're like, right, so he's not going to be a one-off character, because there's something there. He's sitting on something.
True.
Please don't kill him.
Well, please don't just have him disappear and then not be heard of for the next 6 or 7 years. By their
I just feel like
standards.
he was like the antithesis of Michael, because he's so pragmatic, but he's not cruel. He's just bored of the world he lives in. But Michael's just come from this prosperous outward society where everything is comfortable, money's not an issue, people are happy, and she's filled with hope. She's got hope in Book, she's got hope of rebuilding the Federation, and he's so pragmatic and bored of it now.
Sure.
I thought it set up a really good dynamic between the two, and the two brilliant actors as well, like Sonequa and David are just amazing together on that screen.
I will give you that. They had a chemistry that you can't have that quickly normally, but it worked so well at that point. I think that was probably their best straight out, these people are going to be together for a long time and work well kind of story. Little did we know at this point that the next episode that we get, where we think just a couple of minutes have passed, maybe a couple of hours have passed, little did we know episode 2 jumps us a year ahead by Michael's times, but the Discovery shoots through the wormhole, does its scanny scans, finds nothing, crash lands on a strange planet. The crew find themselves racing against time to repair the ship while some kind of deadly ice that's not ice, that's just a thing that happens on the planet at nighttime on technology or something like that. I never really understood it fully. It starts to engulf the ship, and if it fully engulfs the ship, that's it, thank you, bye, end of Discovery. While Saru and Tilly and I believe and Giorgio,
Yes,
they missed that out. See, this is a sad part. I'm kind of like pulling parts from IMDb just so that we can give you a really good description. They miss out Giorgio going for the
she
first
was like the
contact
best part of episode 2 as well.
Exactly. They completely forget that she went on the away mission with Saru and Tilly.
She didn't. She beamed down without his permission and started beating everybody up.
It still technically counts as being on the away team in a way. She was off the ship. But yeah, no, I know what you're saying. Like,
Jojo does what Jojo wants to do.
And we wouldn't have her any other way. Legitimate
not.
badass. So basically, Saru and Tilly, with Giorgio stowing away and coming along at some point during the thing, kicking ass and taking names like she always does, embark on a first contact mission in hopes of finding Burnham. What can we say?
I was a bit meh on this episode. It felt a bit like filler. Like I liked the introduction to the, I don't think it had a name. I think it was just called the Colony. Where they crash land, and it was kind of like this mining state, and it was terrorized by these couriers that you see that are working for someone we don't know yet, but we are introduced as the Emerald Chain.
Yes.
This episode's called Far From Home, by the way, for anyone listening, and would highly recommend going and watching Spider-Man Far From Home instead and coming back and carrying on with Discovery.
We'll wait. We will wait. Go and enjoy it. It'll be better than watching this episode, believe me.
Just this
Anytime.
episode as a whole was kind of like, it was filler. If you've ever watched anime, it was filler.
Yeah, I would have to give you that. It doesn't feel like, I mean, other than the starts of Detmer's kind of, there's a thing wrong with Detmer, but we're not going to tell you. And a little bit of crew development, I don't really think we get much from it.
Yeah, we kind of get, again, much like they did with Michael and Buck in the first episode, where you have Michael who's so full of hope and Buck who has no hope left. We kind of get Saru and Tilly beaming down to this planet, and they're full of hope themselves because they've come from the Federation. They beam down immediately to this poor, deprived, scarce city, and it's like a kick in the teeth for them because they realize, well, not everything is like it is in the Federation in our time, and no, it isn't. And they're very shocked at that.
Yeah, we've just come from the height of everything, like the best that you'll see. You know, our technology's amazing. No one's got food issues. No one's got hunger issues. No one's got anything. We can have everything we want. And then we've beamed out to a planet that's basically literally falling apart. Excuse me. And the people there are barely surviving. It definitely is one of those moments where you kind of like look at it and it's like, it's a stark contrast between the two. It's a massive contrast between the two.
Yeah, it is. And this episode as well demonstrates how well Saru's doing.
Yes.
Like, he's doing astonishingly well as a captain in this crisis that shouldn't even be the captain. He's been thrown up there and he's trying his best. And it's nice to see that the crew all respect him as well. They're like, he should be there.
Exactly. This is the guy that Pike saw something in and went, hey, look, I'm going back to my ship. You're going off to the future, so anything I say is not going to make a difference anyway. You're captain. Enjoy.
Yeah.
While Pike's bravely trying to sacrifice himself and then, doesn't sacrifice himself because we need him for Strange New Worlds. Which is going to be brilliant, hopefully, but we'll get to that one day.
I liked the couriers in this episode as well. I liked seeing how they worked because, like, they're a quite an intimidating bad guy. You know, they're willing to beat up and kill people that don't give them the payment for what they want. And it was nice to see Jojo come down and beat like 5 of them up on her own while Saru and Tilly just stood there. It was quite nice to see.
Yeah, because the aliens that are in the bar, they're from a previous season of Discovery. I can't remember which ones, but they are people that we've seen before. But I can't remember exactly. It's, you know, when you see them, you can see them, but you just can't remember what race they were given. I'm sure someone will give us that at some point. Like someone will be like, "It's this one, and I can't believe you couldn't remember their names," furiously hammering on the keyboards. Please, put me right. I appreciate that. You know, we get the brilliant evilness of Emperor Jojo technically in certain areas with the bar scene, which this was the one-off Western episode that it feels like almost every Star Trek has. I mean, you know, TOS was basically space Western. TNG had Worf in a silly cowboy hat being, you know, sheriff on the holodeck.
And Data with a mustache.
Data in an old dress? What are you talking about? Right at the very end. Oof. That's a sight you don't want to see. Voyager, I guess, technically didn't have one, but they had Captain Proton. I guess that kind of could work. Space
Enterprise had one as well.
So they did. Yeah. It seems like everywhere's had one, so this is their one and done. And of course TNG's had plenty. Like Worf was just like the best one. But there was plenty of like little nuances to the episode. It was good, but I think the end is the biggest drawback from the whole thing. It's like, hey, look, the ship is nearly engulfed in this ice stuff. We're going to die. Well, you're obviously not, because it's only episode 2, and they're not going to strand you on this thing, and you've not found Burnham yet. And next thing you know, tractor beam, and guess who it is?
It's Burnham. Of course.
Of course.
I liked that though, because I don't know, it was nice, and they dropped that bombshell on us that it's been a year. Like, we didn't know that up until that point, and then all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, she's been looking for a year," and you're like, "A year?"
Yeah, that caught me off guard. I'm not gonna lie. Seeing like the second they said that it's been a year since, like, as soon as she says like, "I've been looking for you for a year," I can't believe it. It's like, oh my god. Really? That is a big ass jump from a thing. I thought
it was going to be like 2 months, maybe 3.
I mean,
no. A year.
I know they say time dilation in wormholes and everything, but come on. Even Cisco didn't have that. I mean, Cisco went there till the end of its days, but you know, still, like, that's a whole thing. That's going some. That's doing something, and then going even further. I mean, fair freaking play to them for doing what they did, though. There was a brilliant bit of storytelling. I think that's the savior of the episode as to what they did. But
I think the problem with this episode is that there was just so many different things happening all at once. Like, you had Stamets was woken up from his coma to try and do some repair work. We see Detmer's struggling with a PTSD. We're introduced to the Jojo problem. Jojo's got something wrong with her as well. Saru's struggling to be captain. Michael's not here. There's just so many things going on all at once in 45 minutes.
Like, whatever.
It's hard to keep up with.
Yeah, it's like, what do we do about this problem, that problem, all these others? Let's play, like, the fact that laying subplots is great, but it was just so much in such a short amount of time. It's like, that felt like it needed to be 2 or 3 episodes worth of storytelling before it became what it was. I mean, they did a great job, but if I was to give it a rating, which we, you know, totally aren't doing or anything, but like, I wouldn't be able to give it anything more than like a 2 out of 5, to be fair. Like, it's good, but it's not like, it's not as good as a lot of the other episodes that come along. Like, we've got some really good episodes coming up, and yeah, I'm
gonna give the first episode a 3 out of 5 because as an opener it was fantastic.
Yeah, I'd agree.
And I wouldn't usually do that about something that is one character centered.
But it's Michael Burnham,
I very much. But I gave it that purely just because of the way Book says tricorder. I love it. I think it's great.
Really?
Yeah, like tricorder.
Well, I mean, great. He's English. It makes sense. Like
tricorder. Right. It's not like chavvy. It's nice.
I'm just gonna quote someone from. This is from an upcoming episode, but like, this is somebody's quote about Burnham in general. I don't think they quite knew what they were getting into when they watched Discovery. But this guy is called the one and only Marvel lad. Hi buddy, how you doing? He says, "I'm getting really sick of this now. Always Michael Burnham this, Michael Burnham that, every week. Please, writers of season 4, do not make every episode about Michael Burnham. It's getting boring, and I end up doing the washing up when it's on. And I hate the washing up. More story arcs with other characters, please." And it's, yeah, I don't quite.
There were story arcs with other characters, though.
Yeah.
Did you not watch it? No, he was doing the washing up, wasn't it?
Exactly. I don't quite think he understands where it's coming from, but there we go. Which is a brilliant way to move on to the next episode, which he was actually talking about in general, because he does finish off. This takes us on to episode 3. No, episode 3. I was reading about episode 4, but like that. Sorry, getting ahead of myself, but it kind of makes sense. Takes us on to People of Earth. This is it almost feels like a filler episode, but it's not, because we get another new character, because we start hearing about them chasing a signal. The crew finally reunite, by the way. I want to make that very...
we missed that, yeah.
Want to make that clear. You know, we totally didn't say that Burnham found them at the end or anything, but like, yeah, the crew reunite, they're back on Discovery, blah, blah, blah. The usual stuff. You know, what you expect for about episode 2. It's like, episode 3, we're there. We're where we need to be. We've got some backstories. We've got some arcs being set. So, Burnham and Discovery journey to Earth, eager to learn what happened to the Federation in their absence. At the same time, they're also following a signal from an admiral. As far as they know, they think it's a Federation admiral who,
yes.
Well, we'll get onto who it turns out to be in a minute. But it's another good episode. It's decent. It gives us story. I'm trying to come up with something that works, because
it's good, but I can't tell you why.
it's because to me the episode it's decent. It gives us a little bit more. It tells us what happens to Earth, how Earth is so closed off now. Like, we find out that the Federation isn't a thing anymore, or like we find out that the Federation's at least not at Earth anymore. I think it is a little bit more in depth than it's not at Earth anymore, but like, you find out, I think there's more mentions of the burn. We get more information about where Starfleet is. I think we find out in this episode that Michael in that year was searching across. This might have been the previous episode. No, it wasn't the previous episode. They might have mentioned it in this one. Michael was searching for Starfleet this whole way through, and she found the one lonely guy going through the routine every day. That might be a later episode, though. I cannot say for sure. It's just coming to my head that it's become a thing. But it's middle of the road, I think. Honestly, I think this is probably, if First Contact never happened, this is where Earth would be. I think it's pretty much the best way of putting it. Like, if First Contact hadn't happened and we hadn't have had everything that happened in Enterprise, I think this is pretty much the area that we would be at by now. Earth's all closed up, all shielded, sort of like shut off from the rest of the universe. Like, nah, mate, don't want to know. People don't like us, we don't like them. You know, they basically be the Millwall fans of the universe. But yeah, what do you think? Where would you put this as an episode itself?
I don't know. I mean, I liked it because and I'm still crying over that reunion scene, like where they're all hugging. I'm like, oh, it's just so nice.
I think that's probably the biggest selling point, honestly.
Yeah. You can tell from a mile away that this was a Jonathan Frakes directed episode.
Oh yes.
The first one of the season. It was absolutely good job, sir. This was just so beautiful to watch.
I think the phrase "God damn it, Frakes" is used in the best way in this respect, because you know that when he comes in and he does that, he's always going to produce a banger, basically. Like, he's going to save it in a way. He's always going to give us something good.
Yeah. What else happened? Book and Michael have a bit more banter, and I just continue to smile because it's just so adorable. I love them so much. Saru is officially named, we see now that he is captain, and he's doing his best, and he's trying to ask his crew. We've never had a captain quite like Saru, and I will die on this hill that he is one of the best, because he sort of has because we see him obviously in season 1, season 2 of Discovery. He's very very nervous, very quiet, will not take any form of authority, quote unquote, if he doesn't have to, and he goes through Vahari, and that sort of brings out a character in Saru. And then we see him now as captain, and he sort of took bits of Jojo.
I absolutely love post Vahari of Saru. Like, he's such a, like, I could do an entire hour on Saru in general, because like Doug Jones is a beautiful man, Saru is a beautiful Kelpian. I to this day want a freaking Kelpian in Star Trek Online. I'm annoyed that we don't have that yet. Still, make it happen, Cryptic. Please, I will save up my dilithium, convert it to Zen, and make this a thing. I will make a freaking Kelpian captain if I have to buy it. I will do it. My Ferengi will be taking a back seat for a while, but post Vahari Saru is just, I think, is the right choice to be where he is now. And you make a good point. Where he is in the captaincy at the minute, how he's been put in is just perfect.
I just like that he's a mold of all the captains that we've seen thus far, in a way. Like, he takes Jojo's sort of never back down stance, her confidence, but he also takes Pike's sort of boundless empathy in a way, and he's combined the two. And he also takes sort of like the experiences that he's had with the crew, and he understands his crew probably better than most captains that I've seen, because he knows them all. He's been around them all the time, and
it's either in this episode or it's one coming up that he's asking the computer to keep track of what he does as a captain and compare him to other captains in Starfleet, like Archer and Pike and a lot of those who've come before. And you would never see another captain do that, which I think is admirable at best. And the fact that he cares that much to be captain in this particular situation is a really good thing for him. Like, he's attentive for the crew. He's doing the best he can. There's people absolutely trashing the choice of making him captain at this point. And I mean, it's that, or it turns into the Michael Burnham show entirely of Burnham is always there and Burnham is omnipresent, and making her captain way too soon. I think they made the right decision at that point, because it could have been so much worse. I'm reading, so we do this every now and then. We've done this while we record this. We read some of the comments left on these episodes on the IMDb, and best way to describe Earth in this respect is as Prismark10, hey buddy, says it's an allegory of Brexit Britain, or Trump's isolationist America, or just the innate conservatism of sci-fi fans. The Discovery arrives in the orbit of planet Earth, only to find a non-welcome mat and a boarding party. Earth's cut ties with the Federation, and now we're unwelcome to outsiders. Sounds about right now, right? Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. But you're not allowed to bring politics into Star Trek, remember? Not political.
Well, that was the thing, because this is what we were saying before. Like, I was having this discussion with a few people. That's what Gene Roddenberry's original idea was. He didn't want politics. He didn't want violence between the people on the ship, but it tended to happen because it was alien influence. And now we have none of that. It's just basically Star Trek is modern day, and we bring politics and everything into it. It's just the way it is.
It's always been political, right from TOS.
Hell yeah. I mean, come on,
like,
we had
right from
we had Nazis in it. I mean, you can't really get more political than that, can you? Come on, honestly.
I was just more talking about like when you see like the bridge crew, like when you get like the weirdos from the lower decks in on TOS. There's that one guy, and he's saying like he's being rude to Spock or something, and then like Jim just spins the guy's chair around. It's like, I'll have no racism on my bridge. You can leave. He stays. You can leave. And you're like, oh, that was nice.
I think that's probably one of Shatner's best. It's amazing how Shatner could be such a nice guy as Kirk, but when he has to be a nice guy to, his crew mates, as in, George Takei, he has to be a dick. But that's a story for another day.
That's the duality of acting.
Shut up! You make it sound like I don't know anything. Not joking.
It's just because he's like, I don't ever want to say he's good at it, 'cause he's not. But
he was okay for the role. It's like, oh well, this is here we go. Super quick thing before we go on to the next episode. Pathetic, perpetual tear swallowing and prep talking scenes. So disgusting. What happened to a story and character development?
Did these people watch this season?
I asked myself the same question. It's a reason why it's been rated 1.5 stars out of 10 as a comment. So let's jump on to...
I can name at least 10 characters that have got character development.
Before we jump onto that, we nearly missed the most important character that comes in at the end. We find out who the Admiral sending the signal is. I remembered that we didn't mention them.
We never mentioned this, ever.
We get another new character, so that's like, what, 3 episodes and 3 new characters at this point? We get, right at the very end, they make the appearance throughout the entire show. I want to make it clear, like, Adira does get screen time throughout the entire episode, of course. But we find out at the end, Adira was the Admiral sending the signal that led them to Earth.
Senator.
Yes. Great piece of story. We also find out at the very end that Adira is joining us, which is brilliant. I love the fact that we have another new character. It's another difference in a new character. It's not just another human, just another normal member of the crew. It's like we find out that the reason why it was the reason why an Admiral's code was being used is because Adira is carrying a Trill symbiont, even though Adira is human.
Yes.
I realize it did none of that justice. This is me doing the best I can to remember from when I watched it. I'm not like a serial rewatcher super fast, but old Captain Janeway over here, I will watch it 7 times within the first week.
Don't out me like that.
And then 1,000 times more. We got the
I like to know things.
We have the resident know-it-all in you, and the resident makes it up as he goes along and hopes for the best in me. It works. It's a good combination. People listen for you, not me. It is what it is.
Definitely does.
Right. We're moving. We're pushing on. We are heading to Trill in this next episode. I gotta admit, this was a very, very good storytelling episode. It was good from graphical point of view. Like the effects house did a great job with their work. The filming department did great. Like every part of this episode was done in a very good way. This is a very, very good script. Burnham and Adira beam down to Trill, where they're originally rejected because they want to take Adira to the symbiont pools to see what's going on with the symbiont, why there's this, and this happening. I say this, and this. We're going to cover that, don't worry. While Saru's efforts on Discovery to help the crew reconnect yield surprises, the best parts of this episode kind of all come thick and fast. Like it's a hit after hit after hit after hit. This episode, you get we get Adira's backstory straight away. There's no like, oh, we're gonna give you Adira, but like 7 episodes down the line, we get Adira quick. We get the story as to why Adira is carrying the symbiote. We get introduced to Gray, who personally I want to see more of. I really want to see more of Gray. Yeah. But not as like ghost boyfriend. I want to see more and more of the character and see where this character can go. We get the crew sitting down to eat, and that just beautiful Thanksgiving Day kind of tradition of, well, something's gonna happen. We get like Burnham being badass Burnham, having a nice little fisticuff session, because, you know, if Burnham didn't have something actiony to do at some point, it wouldn't be Star Trek Discovery. And yeah, there's so much to unpack on this one. What was your like? Where were you with this? Like, what was your feelings on this one?
I liked this episode as sort of like a whole. I thought seeing Trill reminded me of the good old days of DS9, Jadzia and Dax in general, and it was nice to sort of have a bit more on the Trill. And
Yeah.
that's one thing that I'll praise this whole sort of season for, is that we get to learn a bit more about like aliens that we don't necessarily hear a lot about. Like Trill, we never really see much about the Trill except for the main characters, and now we get a whole homeworld, and the villain is actually the Orions. That's
the Orions
nice.
was a surprise. I'm not gonna lie, the Orions were
it's not just the Klingons or the Cardassians.
Or the
someone...
Romulans. It's someone completely new.
Yeah, or even the humans. We're not exempt.
Yeah, true, very true.
And it's just nice to sort of like that they picked up on all these sort of smaller, I don't want to say smaller races, but less developed in the grand scheme of Star Trek, because we know loads about the Vulcans, know loads about the Romulans, Klingons, bored of them, but to have the Orions and the Trill and whatever the fuck Linus has got going on, it was nice to sort of... Are they Saurians? Is it a Saurian? He's a Saurian, isn't he? It was nice to just sort of have that sort of development.
Yes, there was a nice little goof in this episode though. With Kolber, he apparently, he shows to be familiar with Trill symbionts, even though in TNG, like the episode The Host, which was set 110 years after Discovery disappeared, the existence of Trill symbionts was shown to be unknown to Starfleet doctors at the time. So the fact that he had knowledge of the Trill, and he's from God knows how, 900 odd years in the past. The Doctor had lived longer than that. And by the time TNG comes around, they're only just learning about them. But then by the time DS9 comes around, they know a hell of a lot about them, obviously, with Jadzia. There's this whole thing. I think I had this conversation with Pig at one point. I went, well, maybe he found a way of, getting material to study since they've been in the future, because Burnham was learning a lot. Maybe she had materials to study by that point. Possibly. But it's a nice little goof that someone picked up on the fact that hey, how does he have knowledge of stuff that he probably shouldn't?
True, very true.
And the fact that this is only the second appearance of the Trill homeworld, which is pretty cool as well. The first time it was in DS9 episode Equilibrium. I think that's when Jadzia went back and did pretty much the same thing. Went into the symbiont pools, did their thing, and reconnected with previous hosts.
Yeah, I liked it. It was a nice little callback to Jadzia.
I was going to say, I was sitting there thinking this is a very Jadzia heavy episode, which then...
And Ezri, but yes, Jadzia.
Yeah. Ezri's cool and all, but Jadzia is where it's at. The downside to this episode, and it giving me the Jadzia vibes, was there was a small part of me that was worried the second that they said about Trill that they were going to pull the easy cop-out card of, oh, well, this is the Dax symbiont. Even though that was a different name mentioned before, they were going to pull this is the Dax symbiont card, and I'm just going to be like, it's great, but where's the originality? Thankfully, we didn't have that.
No, we got the Tal symbiont, which is... It's nice, it's new. And it was very, very similar to the Dax symbiont in that, there's the line of succession and the host. And it was a nice little callback. I liked the start of this episode as well, which I don't know if you remember, was very different to how the other three started out, because it was Hugh's voiceover. He does his little medical log, and he's talking about how the crew aren't quite getting used to being 930 years in the future, which, yes,
I don't think
I
anyone
imagine that
would
is
be
a
at that
little
point.
bit difficult.
Yeah.
But he says a really nice line, and I can't remember it directly, but he says something like, they have to accept help, and for a crew of overachievers, this kind of vulnerability can be hard to hold. And it sort of really sets up a subplot that people keep saying that wasn't there, of crew development and character development. And he goes through, we get that really nice scene with him and Kayla, where she's deciding, I'm gonna accept help, I need it, and she goes to Kolber, and they have that really nice little talk, and she starts to get better after this episode, and it's nice because aside from being dead, Hugh Culber didn't have much of a job to do
Yeah.
in the previous. Well, he kind of did when he came back, but
He was
most
kind
of
of
his
finding
storyline
himself
has
again,
been
wasn't he?
the guy in the mycelial network.
Yeah. He's like, dead guy brought back to life by mushroom network.
Yeah, and that something didn't sit right with me like that. Much like when they introduced Grey in this episode, but we'll get to that.
I was gonna say, yeah, Grey was
yeah.
I'm trying to think of the right way of putting this, because like Grey was a missed opportunity. I think like there's so much behind that character that we get so little of. Like Grey could have been given so much more screen time and had so much more story to tell, and it would have only just enhanced this episode more, because like this is a very good episode for what it is. You know, like we said, we've got the crew sitting down for dinner because Saru wants to kind of like reconnect with them all to see how they're all feeling, and then eventually it's just him and Giorgio at the end because everyone walks out. Like Detmer has her own issue that's going on, as you said. Like Detmer's still kind of like dealing with PTSD, and a lot of people are going, oh, maybe Control got into her implants, that's what it is. It's not just like a straight up PTSD issue. You know, granted, after she gets help from Culber and all this other stuff happens towards the end, you still get them sitting around the table at the end. You get the really nice kind of like family towards the very end of everything. But Grey could have been used in such a better way for this episode, I think.
I just really, really hate the moment they introduce Grey. One of Discovery's first two trans characters is just, he's killed. He's dead.
It's so quick.
Like, it just doesn't sit right with me. It's like, okay, I get what you were going for, but we could have seen him alive first. But okay.
Exactly.
Right.
It's like first episode, he's dying.
Yeah, I'm like, I get it. He lives on in the Tal symbiont and in Adira, and we know that like Adira can see him, but nobody else can.
Yeah, that's still a little bit strange with me, I think.
Yeah, but then it made no sense when you get to Sukal, because Culber can see Grey, so like he must be a living being, surely. But it just made no sense to me, and I didn't like the fact that he was already dead by the time we meet him.
Yeah, like I really want to hope that they can somehow bring Grey back in some form. I don't know how they're gonna do it, or if it's just gonna be dead ghost boyfriend stuff all the time. But there's a whole thing there. I mean, Blue Del Barrio does a really good job playing Adira. Ian Alexander does an amazing job with Grey through what little we see of Grey. But
go on.
No, go on.
I was just gonna say, I really hope that we do see more of Grey, because I don't know if you've ever watched the OA, but Ian Alexander is phenomenal in that.
Be interesting to see how well they use it. It's the whole thing though, isn't it? It's like we need Grey's loss to give us Adira, obviously, to give us the story, and the fact that we know that Adira now can hold the symbiont through the reasons given. But it's just, I liked the scene where you get Adira kind of like going through the symbiont pool, like getting pulled under. Burnham basically does the same thing because Burnham's gotta be there. It's Burnham. And we get the scene with Adira seeing all of the other hosts, where we get like the nice little TNG uniform Easter egg, and we get the DS9 uniform Easter egg, and we get like all of the kind of like uniforms, even the Picard Easter egg in there with the uniform. Not gonna be the only Picard thing we get. But I think it was a very, very good introduction episode and a very well told story. Like you said, we get Discovery's first trans actor and character in Grey. Very, very freaking well done character. I wished there was more to Grey. I know we've said it before. I will say that. That is the hill I will stand on and plant my flag. I want more Grey.
Valid.
Adira is the kind of character where I first sat there, like, during the previous episode, I sat there and I was like, I don't think I'm gonna like this character. It's gonna be one of those stupid know-it-all, just listen to me. You know,
A Wesley Crusher.
I was gonna say the Hermione Granger of the ship, but yeah, basically like a Hermione Wesley kind of crossover, just that. And I'm just like, you know what? gonna give it time. I'll give it time. And then this episode just sold me on Adira as well. Like I was just sold in the space of one episode, and that is very, very hard for me to have happen.
I liked Adira from like the moment we saw Adira, basically because like they were very much willing to put Stamets in his place without ever actually even knowing his name. Like without even looking up from that pad, it was just kind of like, yeah, well, you're wrong.
I loved that bit. That was brilliant. Like that was just the dynamic between them straight away. You don't know what's coming, but the dynamic between them straight away is there. And
while we're on dynamics, go on.
No, I was gonna say, and it's a very good sign of things that we were getting later on. Like it was a very good sign of things to come.
Yes, and I like that it was Stamets as well, because we don't see him very much bonding with anyone aside from like Hugh and to an extent Tilly, but that's probably about as far as it goes really, because he's very closed off.
I was gonna say,
you sort of see the little banter between them, and it's nice.
Yeah, because that pretty much is at that point. It is pretty much just the Hugh and Stamets and Tilly triangle, because he kind of bonds with Tilly after she saves his life, kind of thing. It was a good start and a good sign of things to come, and I think they set it up really well to be like, hey, you might want to watch this, see where it goes, kind of thing, because this could be an interesting story. If you was gonna mark out out of 5, I know we're not exactly doing this much, but like if we was gonna mark this out of 5, where would you give this episode in general? Like what would you do?
4.
I think I'd have to sit with you on that one. It's definitely up there. It's probably one of the best of the season for storytelling.
Definitely. And before we move on from like this one, I just want to talk about Michael and Adira.
Go for it.
A split second, just because I liked that the introduction to sort of Michael and Adira was from Hugh, of all people. You know, Saru's like, well, was it Saru? I think it was Saru that was like, oh, you know, he says to Hugh, he's like, you need to work with Adira and help them sort of understand what's going on and better them. And Hugh's like, well, actually, Michael has a lot more in common with Adira than I do, because Michael's gone through her past trauma, and she's come through it, and Adira's trying to go through the same thing. At this time, we don't know that like Adira watched Grey die, and like just stuff like that, and then we discover it through Michael and Adira being together, and Adira sort of is kind of like they're being a bit like bossy towards Michael, like you will do this and you won't do this, and Michael's she's just there laughing. She's like, okay, like, it's all right.
They're really kind of showing the dynamic that's going to happen throughout the entire season to come with those guys, and it's really cool. Like, who'd have thought that by the end, where you see Adira being super bossy with Burnham, who'd have thought that by the end they were basically besties?
Yeah. And I like that when they get to Trill, Michael suddenly becomes this sort of like protective big sister, in a way. And the Trill are basically like, when I believe Adira is already in the Trill pool, the symbiont pool, and they're like dying, and like other the weird sort of like tentacly things are like closing in on them, and then Michael's like, and they're like, well, we're not pulling Adira out, and then Michael just says something like, Adira's life takes precedent. Like, oh, Michael's not here for your fucked up priorities.
Yeah, it's something that you probably wouldn't have expected from Burnham at one point, but then seeing that, it's also development for her at the same time. Like, you get multiple character development around just 2 people. It's probably one of their better stories in total. Like, it's very rare that Discovery's done multi-character development within one episode that's worked so well.
All this character development that didn't happen.
Exactly.
This is why you don't wash the dishes while you're watching Discovery.
Nothing to see here. Absolutely no development at all. I'm gonna start this next episode with a few things. Okay, so we're moving on to episode 5. This is
Try.
I love this episode for so many reasons, and some of them being little Easter eggs we get, some of them being some of the people that are in it, some of the scenes, just everything in general. This has the guest star of David Cronenberg. Anyone who would know that name directed things like he directed Peter Walker in Naked Lunch. He also directed The Fly, which, you know, centered around malfunctioning material, you know, malfunctioning machinery, which inspired certain Star Trek episodes, like, say, Tuvix. Yep. But I'm going to start on a captain's log. I'm not going to do this justice because it's Saru. It's our boy. But it's something
Give us
like
your best, Doug Jones.
oh hell no! I'm not even going to attempt that. It would be so bad. I can't get the clicks properly. It was like, but here's the thing: it's like Captain's Log supplemental. After a journey of 930 years, and a return to Earth, that we could not have anticipated. I'm very bad at reading from the screen. Bear with me. We are finally on the verge of reaching our destination. Federation and Starfleet headquarters. Separate entities that must now abide together. A sign of this new time, I suppose. I can only hope that they are as eager for us to arrive as we are to be home. I think that really kind of sets the tone for where we're at. It's a great episode because we're finally getting home. The crew are finally where they've needed to be this whole time. We're 5 episodes in, we're home. We see this really weird sort of like space bubble. I can't really think of explaining it in any other way other than a strange space bubble. That opens up and has everything Federation inside. So the Discovery flies in. It's basically the equivalent of like a living space dock, except huge. You know, Discovery flies in this 930-year-old ship with its, you know, basically archaic technology, flying past what they mentioned to be like a new Constitution class, which let's not get into that. We get the beautiful and now officially christened Janeway class of the Voyager J, which has been given the seal of approval by none other than Janeway herself, Kate Mulgrew.
Ugly ass ship.
It's such a weird looking ship. I don't know if I can get behind that as a. It's beautiful, but it's beautiful because of the legacy that comes with it. I can't give it my full, my full seal of approval. We get the Eisenberg class, the USS Nog.
Yeah.
Which is
nice.
An absolutely beautiful touch. There's so many like little bits. There's the flying forest. Like seeing the crew looking out of the window, seeing everything that they see, and just like seeing the looks like on Stamets' face or Reno's face as they're looking out and seeing all this new stuff. It's that feel-good moment I think that we needed. I think that's the phrase I was looking for a couple of episodes back or something. It's the feel-good moment that we need, that we haven't had since episode 2 of them reuniting. I mean, granted, we had certain feel-good moments, but it's not been like the one that you would expect. We've got some amazing actors starting to appear now. We've got I can never say his last name. I think it's Oded Fahir, maybe? I can never say that name properly. Fair. There you go.
Oded Fair.
Thank you, dyslexia.
Fair.
Yeah. All I remember is plays the same name in the Mummy films. Loved him then, love him now. Good old Admiral Charles Vance. Brilliant character. Was not a fan to start with, but I'm definitely a fan now. Like, he grew on me throughout the thing. He was the kind of... I think he was the kind of character that needed that development. You know, the one that didn't happen. It needed the time. It had to go, and it was probably, like, the best way of working. I think... visually, it was good. The story was good because our subplot has the crew having to prove that they are useful to Starfleet by rescuing a Barzan ship. And there's so much to this episode. So, again, where did you sit with this one? Where was this in your grand scheme of Discovery?
Hated it.
Really? Really?
It's not the worst episode on the list. There's a couple of very bad ones coming up, but it just felt very contrived, forced, adjective, noun, whatever you want to call it. It was just very. We're doing this. The best part was the interviews.
Yeah, I will give you that. The interviews were brilliant. I think the best interview in general was Reno.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
Did you bring snacks?
It was. Yeah, that was really good. And she sat there just eating like Doritos. The guy's like, trying to be serious, and she's just not asked.
Yeah, just that. But then that's the best part of that. Like that's the best part of Tig's character is just how nonchalant she is all the way through.
I have also failed in my duty to mention Jet Reno every 2 minutes. Therefore, I do apologize and will now rectify that. I love the interrogation scenes because, like, I love scenes like that are played for laughs. Like, they're not serious. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen The Expanse or, what was that cancelled? Like, Firefly. I don't know if you've ever seen Firefly.
Oh,
don't mention one like that.
Don't mention Firefly around the sci-fi nerds. They're still salty that it never got a season 2.
Come for me. Let's go.
In the comment section, why was it meant to have a season 2? We might do an episode on it.
I liked Firefly. Yeah, and I just sort of liked the whole sort of like Hughes was my favorite just because he sort of sits there and he's like, yeah, I was murdered, but my murderer and I are cool now, and you're like, oh, okay. Yeah, just gonna slip that in there like it's normal.
It almost makes me think of Red Dwarf and Crichton's scene where they're thinking of reprogramming him. Rented lips, reprogramming him after the crew are brought back by the nanites. Yes. I can never look at an interrogation scene again without kind of flashing back to that when someone starts playing it for laughs. It also gives us the Giorgio problem, like an official the Giorgio problem, because she'd been kind of having little momentary lapses up until now that people were kind of like, is she okay? And she's like, yeah, what of it?
Yeah, like she was very much trying to hide it because she doesn't like weakness, as we see in the Mirror Universe. You know, the Terran Empire do not do weakness.
This is true.
And but we knew something was going to have to come of this because she's not in her own timeline, and now she's 930 years away from it.
Which is a very good thing.
It was going to take its toll on her.
Because most people would just think that she can just jump in perfectly fine. Nothing's wrong. She's just a normal human being. It's all good. But yeah, that's where I think they did it really well as well. Because like, you know, I think it's this one or it's possibly the next episode. He slips her like the Terran Empire badge, and that kind of creates more flashbacks. I think that's the next one because there's a few episodes that have these two having a back and forth, but some people were sitting there thinking, oh, he's a Mirror Universe agent or something, or something Mirror Universe related is going to happen. But it's a nice setup. Like they're kind of giving you a this is what's going on situation in a minute. It's like they've got like seeds planted. This is the slow burn, no pun intended.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree. I mean, we this is again another sort of one where it's Trek typical vague. You know, we're still getting references to the Emerald Chain, but no one's going to tell us what the fuck's going on.
Yeah.
Like, this is a thing that's happening, and we're like, well, what is it? We don't know. Well, are you going to tell us? No.
We also get like burn references as well, don't we? Because like, where's the rest of Starfleet? Oh well, we can't get to them, or they can't get to us because of the burn. We start sort of like learning a little bit more, but not enough because Starfleet doesn't want us to know.
Yeah.
It's like we also get the whole like I said, we don't want to miss out the fact that they take the trip to the Barzan ship. It was a good story. It was a very good story. The plot behind that part, the sub story was decent. It leaves us one crew member down.
Yeah, a good crew member as well.
Yeah, I was a little sad that none left us because she'd been with us for quite a while.
Me again.
But the best part is, thankfully, I mean, Arium's still on the ship, just not Arium anymore. Same actress, just different character now, which is quite cool. But
so we don't have Arium anymore. I miss my little android. Leave me alone. Android, bug, whatever she was.
I was trying to give us just like a little kind of silver lining.
No, it's not Arian.
But yeah, Nan leaves this time because she stays on the Barzan ship. There's really not much to the Barzan story. Just they go, they try to find the things because they think it's going to be something to do with the burn, I think, and it's their way of just proving to Starfleet that they are needed because they have the mycelial drive and they can get to places that they never would be able to. And I think you put it best before. It's almost like an anime filler episode on that one. It's a filler that has story, but
if you skipped over it, you probably wouldn't miss much. You'd still know what was happening down the line.
I think you'd probably sit there and go, oh, why is Nan not there? But other than that, you wouldn't really kind of worry too much. I think it's not like the be all and end all of the episodes.
I don't think a lot of people even remembered that Nan was on this season.
True.
Like,
I don't think she was there.
She was just kind of in the background until this episode, and then like she does the whole sort of like, I'm gonna stay, like, and then Burnham starts sort of like tearing up and it's like, I can't lose you as well, and she's like, no, you're not losing me. I'm willing to do this. This is where I need to be.
I don't get why Burnham was so emotional over that though, because like they didn't really bond much.
It was because of the whole Arian thing, because it was Nan, Michael, and Arian, wasn't it?
Yeah,
and it was Nan that was there to comfort her and to help her.
If we go by screen time, I think that's pretty much the only time we really see them together in a substantial amount of times is on the Section 31 space station, the whole Arian situation, and that little bit of time afterwards. You don't see anything of it after that. It's almost like people forget that it happened when it came to the writers' room.
Yeah, they kind of forgot. Yeah,
just happens.
Benioff and Weiss. Yeah, no, I agree. But it was nice. It was a nice little sort of send off for Arian. For Nan.
Arian got a nice send off as well, though. I will give you that. Sort of. I think it was pretty much just a decent filler with a bit of story. Episode 6, on the other hand, now that is a story. So after receiving a message from Book, because Book left, I think it was at the end of episode 4, maybe episode 5, I can't remember. I paid that little attention at the time. That was just like, if he goes, he goes. I'm sure he's doing something important. Burnham and Georgiou embark on a rogue mission to find him, leaving Saru to pick up the pieces with Admiral Vance, because at this point the Admiral's still very untrusting and is not a fan of the Discovery crew, and mostly Burnham, to be fair, because she's just flying in the face of everything he's saying. Meanwhile, Stamets forms an unexpected bond with Adira, which is a very substantial plot point. And I mean very substantial plot point, because there is a comment that I want to read off in a minute once we get a little further into it. That is, well, it's a big ask for a comment section to come up with. It's just like, why would you feel the need to say this? But it's a big talking point. So yeah, what did we think of this one? Because I was so with it because I thought it dragged on a little bit in the junkyard stuff. Like, I think it maybe went a little bit too long in certain parts.
That's valid. I really liked this episode, but not for the reasons people are gonna assume I liked this episode. I'm gonna dance around everything before we get to what's gonna take a while. I was gonna
say, be prepared. Nice. This will be a longer discussion, but you guys will understand why.
I apologize in advance for my rambling that will definitely come. I liked it. We got more Admiral Vance. I thought that was really nice. I just love him. I don't even care what he does. He could sit there and just drink tea, and I would be like, that's yes, 10 out of 10. We finally discover the Admiral chain. We finally get more than a sentence that's a bit vague. We learn that it's run by a woman called Osira, who, my goodness, what a villain.
I'm so glad that Osira stayed as long as she did. That is a brilliant villain that we had just then.
I have, unfortunately, in my notes as well written, I hope she's not just a one-off for this season.
Yeah, that's a shame.
But in hindsight, I probably should have assumed she wouldn't last more than a season. Book ship does a thing. It comes apart and reforms at the end of a narrow cave. That's nice to see. Are we going to find out how that happens? No. No techno babble for that.
I was going to say,
does.
this is where we really do start getting introduced to the strange technology that is the 30-odd century, because it's like, what is this that allows a ship to stay together but then do what Book's ship does?
Yeah, it and I love that they've given up with the script as well. Like, they're basically just like, we don't even know how to explain this. It comes apart and it reforms at the end, and they've got comm badges now that transport you like Dobby and Harry Potter. We don't know.
Except this is one of the best scenes of the whole thing.
It is. My boy Linus, I love him. If he hears this, please marry me.
Linus is awesome. Just like, you get in a really serious moment going on, and the next thing you know, boop, Linus, hi. Just
Peacock blocked Book so fucking hard.
I think that was probably one of the best parts of the whole episode as well, though. It's just like Linus messing about with the comm badge, finding out as a transporter, ending up in all the wrong places. It was just the best bit, I think.
Yeah, I love him. It was a nice sort of like feel good episode for me. Like, not a lot happened, I guess, but like it did advance the plot quite a substantial amount. Like, we lose Book, and then like Burnham and Giorgio sort of are like, "Hey, Captain Saru, can we take a ship and like go and do a thing?" And he's like, "No," and they're like, "Okay, we're gonna do it anyway," and then they go and do the thing.
Exactly. I mean, we have the pro that this episode gives us a couple of seconds of Spock screen time, because they're going into, like, you know, they're dealing with the past, and we hear things to do with Picard as well. Like, I think they wait. No, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself on that one. Sorry, I'm thinking of Unification. My apologies. Carry on. No, that's a nice little surprise for you guys on the next one. No, I'm getting ahead of myself on that one. No, we get. I know where I was going with this. Sorry. We get the side of Giorgio that comes back, where she's basically the badass again when her and Burnham are looking for Book in the scrapyard. We also get a few little Easter eggs, because we see like old comm badges and old phasers in this place as well. So like, we see the technology from old things that get broken down. And you see like Giorgio look over as if she knows certain things that are in those scrap piles, which is cool as well.
Yeah.
We get like a whole attitude thing going on. We get we get action for the sake of action. You know, we also get like a really cool conversation between Stamets and Adira. We get a little bit of everything in this one, I think. It's like, some people were saying that, you know, like, this is where it really proves that Tilly is the Jar Jar Binks of Discovery, and I'm just like, why? No. You know, it shows more of Burnham's disobedience, which, yeah, I think it's kind of needed. But I think it gives us just like a nice little absolutely everything. Like, it's a good kind of like mix of the lot at this point.
Yeah, and it gives us a lot of good old like sort of Jojo Michael vibes as well, that we haven't had since like pretty much season 1, when we had Prime Jojo.
Yes.
I like that when they're sort of debating whether or not to go and get Book and to go behind Saru's back, that Michael is kind of, she goes up to Jojo and she's like, "So are you coming with me?" And Jojo unexpectedly is kind of like, "No, because it's gonna screw over Saru. You can't do that to Saru." And you're like, "Wait, what?" Like, you've never been scared of doing anything before in your life. Why? So like, we were kind of left with that sort of, does Jojo like Saru now? Are they friends now? Is what happened in the mirror universe, like with her Saru, did that sort of shape what she thinks about this Saru? And I like that they turned Michael into like fucking, I'd rather regret something I did than something I didn't burn him. Like, okay.
True. I say it definitely, like, it gives us a lot. Like, it gives us an absolute lot in this one episode. Like, it's a filler, but it's probably the best kind of filler, because it's a filler that will give a story and, you know, it's literally everything that we need. But like it's a MacGuffin episode, you know, like they'll give us something that we don't really need too much of, but it gives us something that we need, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. You're right.
It's pretty much, they touch on some really, really interesting points, and then it gives us more character development again that doesn't happen, obviously. Like, there's no such thing as character development in Star Trek Discovery, so I'm gonna go do the washing up again. I think that's going to be a thing where we're going to constantly come back to. Was it good enough to watch, or do we do the washing up?
It is a dilemma.
I can't see too much of a bad thing in an episode, I think this is probably like one of the better ones.
It is. It was, at the time of it coming out, it was definitely like my favorite one.
Yeah. Oh,
all things considered, like as far as that came, like up to 6, that was definitely my favorite.
Yeah, agreed.
But, I don't know. There was that line where Jojo's like, I love me, and I was, I love you too, Michelle, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I can really remember. Oh, and Asira's got a weird ass nephew.
The woman, kind of, you know what? He made me think that they just got Matt Smith and put green paint on him because he looked really weird like that. Like,
he really did look a bit like Matt Smith.
Yeah, it's like a green faced Matt Smith. It's like, Matt, if you're watching, please don't be in Orion, because that would just look really weird. I say watching, I mean listening, but we all know what I'm talking about. But
it was really nice to have the episode end on Saru's little monologue as well. Like he was a Shakespeare character. That was nice. And he ends it with something like, "Oh, one day we'll find the answers we are all looking for." And you're like, Saru.
Freaking quotes,
it's nice
boy.
How much of him we get.
Yeah. But then...
until he said shit 4 times and he agreed. That was nice as well.
That was a very good point. I mean, honestly, this is definitely better than what we're moving on to. Episode 7 is what I basically, in my notes here...
We missed the biggest scene from Scavengers there.
I didn't know if he was going to mention that a little bit later, or if he was going to go into it. So if you want to go to it, let's go to it. Like I'm more than happy to leave this next episode for quite a while. So
no, that's fine. We'll do it later. Sure.
Are you sure? No, I don't
go
mind.
With your plan.
Like, look, plan? Never. I just thought that.
Sound like you got a plan.
No, I just skipped 1 page ahead. That was it. No, the biggest scene. Go for it. Like there was a very. I feel bad for missing it, as it were. It was a very pivotal moment. So, the discussion that we was alluding to earlier with the conversation between Stamets and Adira, like their unlikely bond, or their whatever you want to kind of like discuss it as, it was a very big moment. I'm gonna let you go for that one, because like I don't do this part of the episode justice. Like I can never just, like, I can't describe the way the scene went and do it good enough justice. Like it was a very well done episode and a very well done moment of the episode.
It was. I had some issues with it when I first watched it. I won't lie, the way it was handled and stuff, but I sat on it, I pondered it, I watched it twice again, and I realized, alright, I understand why they've done it like this. But it is the scene where they're down in quote unquote the engineering room.
Down in the lab.
Which they keep just trying to make us think is engineering, but we all know for a fact that is not an engineering room. They're down in the sciencey department, and Adira is overworking themselves, as always, because that's what perfectionists and tryhards always do. And Stamets is talking to, I don't know if it's not Hugh, it's just someone else, I think, and he's basically like, oh yeah, she's fast, and Adira just sort of slams their hands down and is like, they're fast. That's sort of our introduction to Adira being non-binary, and that was sort of the scene that caused the most animosity on the internet, I think. And the moment I saw that, I got the internet ready. I was waiting for
This was
the comments.
this was a big discussion that myself and Pig had when the actors behind the characters were mentioned. So there's multiple people who took this in multiple different ways. The announcement was met with both absolute joy from a lot of people. They're just like, yes, freaking amazing, yes, do this, cannot wait to see what happens. There's some people going, okay, and then there's some people who were just like slamming the fact that it had to be announced, or even just done in general. Like me and Pig have had discussions about this as time's gone on. The fact that Adira / actor, I freaking forgot name already, and I was looking at it 2 seconds ago.
We're 2 episodes behind for this. This is episode 8. This wasn't even this episode. I thought it was this one.
You know what? Fuck it. We'll talk about it super quickly, and then we'll talk about it properly as it goes on. All right, we'll get into the reasoning in a little bit when we get to episode 8. But yeah.
That's classic us.
It really is. That's why we say unplanned and unscripted, because this is where we go wrong. Pretty much, yeah. The actors behind the characters were announced as we have our first ever non-binary and trans characters / actors within a Star Trek show, and it's another sign of Star Trek pushing the boundaries. It was met with amazement, joy, annoyance, and just general meh in different places. And I think you kind of like see signs of it leading up to it. I think bringing it up now is probably a good thing anyway, because I think you see signs leading up to it in a way with Adira. Partly if you look at like the character design in general, there's no kind of, you know how every other character you can see, oh look, that's a male character, that's a female character. Even Grey, you look at Grey, oh, you know, that's definitely a male character. There's no real kind of like sign, I guess, with Adira. So I think in a way it definitely kind of it's sowing the seeds of something. If you are not paying attention and you didn't read, you know, like the announcements, there's something coming up with Adira as time goes on. This is where Stamets and Adira start bonding that little bit more, though. And you know, we get all of the cool information of things that's going on when we get Book and Outlaw back. I don't know. That's the best way I can get that. We get more on the Emerald Chain and a couple of other bits and pieces.
Yeah.
So let's do what we was gonna do. Let's go on to what I've lovingly put into my notes as the Michael Burnham special. Episode 7, Unification Part 3. I destroyed myself on this one already by saying that we get a nice little bit of Spock screen time. We get a nice Picard tie-in on this one as well. This is all basically going around the fact that while grappling with the fallout of her recent actions and what her future might hold, Burnham agrees to represent the Federation in an intense debate in release of politically sensitive but highly valuable burn data. That debate being with the Vulcans and the Romulans. What we didn't know up until now is that both Vulcans and Romulans are now living happily together. Well, we say happily, about as happily as you can when they're Vulcans or Romulans, on Vulcan that's no longer called Vulcan. They have a big thing of, hey, we need this information because we're trying to see what happened and we need to know blah, 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 but we're not going to tell you because we're Romulans and Vulcans and we don't want you knowing. And then we get a nice little Picard tie-in. We get a nice little bit of Spock. And it's a decently told story. I mean, if you want your nice little bit of trivia here, this episode takes its title from the 2 episodes from TNG. Unifications Part 1 and 2, where Spock and Picard begin facilitating the unification of Vulcans and Romulans back into a joint society. There's also a nice little goof in this episode where Vulcan has always been a desert planet with an Earth-like atmosphere, and in this episode it has a green atmosphere in some shots for some strange reason, but I like to think that, you know, planetary, you know, like how Risa has the weather device, like the planetary net. I'd like to think maybe they did something like that in the 900 odd years, that maybe they went, you know what, I'm a bit sick of a desert planet, I want a nice little bit of sun and a nice little bit of greenery, because sand is coarse and irritating and it gets everywhere. Nice little bit of Star Wars in with you, Star Trek. Come on, what do you think? Unification Part 3, where do we stand on this one? It's good.
Love it.
Personally, I thought it dragged on, I'm not gonna lie, but go for it. I want to hear your take on this.
I mean, we all know I like the Romulans. We love them. And it was nice to sort of see them just out of nowhere. I wasn't really expecting this sort of episode. I mean,
Yeah.
I saw the title and I immediately was like, well, I know what it's going to be about. We're going to see the Vulcans. We're going to see the Romulans. I'm not an idiot, but actually physically seeing the Romulans, I just was feral. I was like, oh my goodness. We've got Orions. We've seen a Cardassian. We've got the Romulans now. Like, it's killing it.
Yeah.
I was really happy.
They're playing the hits. I mean, we had Andorians in the previous episode. We had, like, they're playing the hits. They're definitely like playing what we know. It's I don't know how to describe this episode. It's an episode, I think, is the best way of putting it. You know, we have Burnham at center stage doing what Burnham does best. She gives a rousing speech. We see Burnham's mother, because this is the Picard tie-in.
Yes.
I can never pronounce these guys properly, but she comes in as
Coac Malak.
There you go. Also known as defense of basically protector of lost cause or something like that, defender of a lost cause.
Yeah.
And she's there to defend Burnham because she thinks that Burnham's case is basically a lost cause. It's a nice little sad moment of, oh, I tried to find you, I couldn't find you, and then blah blah blah, all the sort of stuff that you'd expect. It's a very as rough 1969 said, I want to like the show, but seriously, why the hell does there have to be so much crying and dramatic whispering? I don't know if it's poor acting or poor directing, but the melodrama is getting old. There was a lot of cry facing. There was a lot of emotion from someone who's supposed to kind of, you know, been raised by Vulcans. This is where she should probably be most Vulcan, and there were signs of Sarak's teachings of like her logic and everything else as time went on, especially during the big speechy scenes. But it was very much a standing still, story driven scene. It was like the episode was talky. There wasn't much else going on.
I liked that though, and that's another thing that I don't like about people saying like, you know, because you read a lot of criticism about Michael, obviously.
Of course.
And I'm not exempt from criticizing Michael. Like, I love Michael Burnham. I genuinely do. As much as I rip into her, it's just a meme at this point. I genuinely do like Michael as a character.
Of course.
And my favorite sort of criticism that people give for Michael is, oh, she's too emotional. And it's like, yes, she's a human. She's not a Vulcan. Like, yeah, but she's raised on Vulcan. Yes, raised on Vulcan. If I raise you in Spain, you're not Spanish.
Yeah.
Like, I can teach you Spanish ways. You'll probably speak Spanish. You will act like the Spanish, but you will not be Spanish. She has emotions. And that's sort of what I hate. People are like, oh, she's always crying because she's human. And she was raised by Amanda. Spock cries in TOS. Spock has a lot of sort of I don't know. Yeah, it annoys me.
Yeah, it's
that
like
people are like, oh, she's really sort of emotional. It's like, yeah, because she's a human. She's allowed to be emotional. She didn't like Sarek anyway. No one does. Spock had emotions.
Like none of his
Cyborg
kids
had
like
emotions.
It's very much it's a very, very good kind of like I guess we said it already, it's a very story-driven episode. It's very well done of the way they've done it. It's like, if you like the talkie scenes that gives you like a lot of things going on, it's worth it. It's a very pivotal episode. It gives you pretty much everything that we need from this, like, obviously overall story ended in, you know, Burnham gets the information that they need, because obviously she would. It pushes the story along. It gives us more, and, you know, we learn that Navarre, as it's now called, is not as peaceful as you were led to believe, because, you know, Romulans are still Romulan.
Bitches.
And Vulcans are still basically being...
Bitches.
They're basically... What Romulans are is they're the bitches that will subtweet everything that's going on, but not tell you what's going on. And you've got the Romulans that will just be tweeting that shit with no problems. They'll be like, yeah, Romulans are awesome. Vulcans can go fuck themselves. And the Vulcans will be like, when there's that one guy at the meeting, but you don't want to tell him that he's actually the worst person there, but blah, blah, blah. Not talking about anyone in particular, of course. You know, like that, because logic dictates that you wouldn't subtweet anyone or anything. But we learn more about the burn as time goes on, which then gives us more information as to what's going on. We get really cool little scenes with Tilly and Stamets. We get a nice little, you know, talkie scene between Tilly and Burnham. You know, there's a whole, the crew embrace each other. I think this is also the episode. This is the episode where Tilly gets promoted to a field commissioner first officer at the time, I believe. I think I'm right in that one. Yeah, because that's where the big embrace in engineering comes in, because they're all there just so incredibly happy for her. And I just sat there, I was like, that's awesome. Like, I was questioning why, but it's awesome. Like,
it works. It just works.
It just works. It's the Fallout 76 decision of the show. It did just work. It was so well done. Like, honestly, one of the best parts of it. And it gave us story advancement, I think. That's probably the best thing we can say. It gave us the advancement of the story.
Yes, it absolutely did. And it was just nice to sort of have that as a change as well. And we also got, like, badass Michael back this episode. Like, we've had, like, calm, relaxed sort of Michael for a couple of episodes, and then all of a sudden she walks up to this fucking Romulan lady, I think it was one of the Romulans, and she's just, I invoke the right to call and cat, like, oh. And everyone on the bridge just sort of looks at Michael like,
oh, that was the Romulan or Vulcan ambassador, wasn't it? Like the first woman that you see,
the Denise Crosby looking woman.
Yes,
Serena.
Yes,
Serena,
the one that you just wanted to slap in the face for just being there.
Oh, I liked her. I thought she was cool.
Hey, I never meant that. It's like, you can want to slap someone in the face even if you like him. It's just what you do. It's called being hostile for no reason.
Oh, I know that, yeah.
You know what? I want to take a minute before we do move on to episode 8. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone who has listened to the previous shows. You guys have been amazing. Thank you. You've given us the drive to do more. We don't have the ability to do these every single week like we would like to, but we do these as best as we can. And if you guys did not know, from this point onwards, you can listen to the show on as many amazing stations as you can. I know we mentioned this earlier, but you can now get us on Breaker, on the amazing platform that is Anchor, that's given us the opportunity to bring this to you in so many different ways. You can listen to us on Google Podcasts, on your Spotify. You can make a Spotify playlist of just this show and listen to our voices on loop, if that's what you're into. I don't know why you'd want to, but you can do it.
Seek help.
Please. The EMH is online. Seek help. You can listen to us on Radio Public. You can listen to on Pocket Casts, on YouTube, and if you are lucky, you can join us live on Twitch when we do these, and catch us down in the chat and have your say as well, and tell us what you think of what we're talking about at the time. Get your opinions in. Please also, if you are listening to somewhere that has a comment section, please feel free to leave us your feedback, your comments. Tell us that I talk too much and Janeway doesn't talk enough, or vice versa, or you don't like the music that we have in the background. Right? Just I don't know, just anything you feel that we need, we are more than happy to give you guys the platform. There may be a Discord set up for this at some point where you guys can come in and join us and give us as much feedback as you like. There may even be a thing where you guys can join us on the show at some point in the future. We have plans that are being put into motion at some point. We have plans. We just need to crack on. I hope you guys enjoy what you hear. We do this just because we want to shit talk. And we feel that people can listen to it if they want to. So if you enjoy it, brilliant. Let us know. If you don't, let us know. Today of all days, I want to know what you guys think of the topics that we're covering in this episode. Episode 8.
I'm gonna give that episode, by the way, a 4.5 out of 5.
4.5 out of 5. That's the highest we're gonna get, I think. It's gonna be difficult to break that one.
There's a 5 in here, I'll say that.
Oh baby, that's
we
gonna
haven't
be
gotten
a thing.
to it yet, but there is a 5 in it.
That is going to be a thing. Episode 8 is Return of the Frakes. I think he may have had something before this, but this is the true Return of the Frakes. Discovery's crew travel to Book's home planet to help rescue it from Osira, the formidable leader of the Emerald Chain. This is where we get, like, this is planning for Endgame here. Stamets and Adira search for valuable information on the origin of the burn. This is where we get very important scenes, very cool scenes, like freaking action scenes as well. This is where Detmer shines. You get Stamets being Stamets, but also being amazing. That makes it sound like Stamets isn't amazing anyway, but that guy is just absolutely brilliant.
Yes.
I cannot say a bad word about Stamets or, you know, the beautiful actor Anthony Rapp that is behind it. You know, we get a little bit of everyone in this. Like, we get Adira just doing Adira things. We get Burnham being Burnham and Book being Book. You know, we get that so-called non-existent character development that we all know is there, and it's a brilliant job behind it. There's so much to this episode, and I want to unpack this because it's a big episode. Before we do this, let's give you a teeny tiny little bit of track trivia here on the episode, at least. The Viridian isn't just a reference to Viridian Free. Note the spelling is different, but whatever. But it's also the perfect name for a ship that serves the Emerald Chain. Viridian is a bluish-green color, which is a perfect ship name for the Emerald Chain, a syndicate of the blue-skinned Andorians, and the green-skinned Orions. It's a cool little tie-in right there.
Hell yeah.
I have to admit, this episode done really well. Like, we get some really cool stuff from this one.
Absolutely.
Again, take it away. What was your thoughts behind this one? What did you like? What did you dislike? Where was your standpoint on this episode?
I'll say it now. This is my 5-star episode.
Wow.
Not for any other reason than David Ajala. I'll say it. I love him. Book slowly crept up as one of my favorite characters. Right from the beginning, I was like, I'm gonna love this guy, and it took 8 episodes for me to realize why. I love him. I think it was nice to sort of see. It's Kwejan, right? It's Kwejan. It was nice to see Kwejan, sort of, and his home planet, because it's like, oh, that's just Manchester. That it just looks like a woods in the middle of England. That really.
Probably was.
And I like it because it fits very well with his character. It was nice. It was sort of, he's got magical powers that still right now I don't understand.
Mm. Very, very weird powers with what he's got, not gonna lie.
Yeah. There's a scene where he meets his brother and he's torn between staying on Kwejan or going back to Discovery with Burnham, and Michael's like, I'm not gonna make you do anything. If you want to stay here, that's entirely on you, and I understand. And then he basically he's just like, no, I'm coming with you, and it was just so, I teared up a little bit because he loves Michael. He loves Michael so fucking much that he's willing to give up his brother, his home. Like, he's back home now. It's all he's wanted for a while, is to just get back home. And he knows that it's under attack by Osira, and she's sort of baiting the Quajans in a way into like the courier service kind of thing. And
Yeah.
Osira knows personally of Book, like, about him and the fact that he escaped that compound as well, and because her nephew told her about it, and like a little grass, stitches get stitches. And yeah, it was a nice little sort of, I don't know, it was a wholesome episode, and it was nice little character development for Book, which, and at this point I was like, he's definitely not going to die, so we're going to see him in season 2.
Oh,
season 2? Season 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just nice. It was really wholesome. That scene alone made it like a 5-star sort of thing, and it was nice. It was very nice. I was here for it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it was definitely definitely one of the better episodes of what they did.
We got to see Book ship as well.
Yes.
Like, in action a bit more, and it's sort of like this fucking, I don't know, Millennium Falcon-esque ship that makes no sense.
This was a bit that kind of this was a bit like, I loved it. I don't remember, absolutely loved it. Like, brilliant little pew scene. This was the bit where I really sat there and I was like, I can't be sure. I think this is before Discovery got their upgrades and stuff, but I'm not 100% sure. But when we see Book's ship doing what it does, doing its all its shape-shifting bits and pieces. So, you know, we've got Book and we've got Detmer doing their pew-pews when they're attacking the Viridian. And it's just like, I'm looking at that ship, I'm looking at it breaking apart and doing its thing, and I'm just like, I get that we're massively far into the future. I get that technology like this is probably a thing. But if we're still... Star Trek's always had some kind of base in realism. That ship just kind of... It took me out of it in certain respects. Don't get me wrong, I loved it from a sci-fi point of view. Absolutely loved it from a sci-fi point of view. But I just couldn't get behind the way the ship came apart and was back together again, and there's like no problems because they don't explain anything about it. There's no technobabble like you expect in Star Trek. There's no explanation. There's no big kind of, this is how it should be, this is why it does it. It's just ship go pew. And that's about it. Like, that's the best way I can put it. It's like, ship go apart and come back again. That's it. It's just like, what could you really do with it? Like, it's a brilliant episode, and you can definitely tell that it's a Frakes episode, because it's like, it's a perfect Frakes episode. I mean, contrary to what most of the people on IMDb says, because apparently it's an absolutely poor, very bad, save your sanity style episode. I think a lot of people might be basing it upon like one particular point, but yeah, it's just I don't know. It's like, I was always on the fence of it. I think it was a good episode. It was a very decent kind of like, there was the right bits in the right places. There was action. It was very well told story. Like I said, like development within it. You could almost see the Book was going to go with Michael anyway, because it's like everything that had been going on throughout the whole thing. You know, we get a beautiful kind of like thing there, and it's just like, you know that he's going to choose her in the long run. You know, we get the pieces with Jojo sort of like glitching out.
Oh goodness, yeah, she glitched like a cyberpunk character. That was
Yeah.
awful.
Yeah. Like that glitching just kind of became a whole thing. And
I hated it.
it was it was I don't know. It was a whole thing. It was like, I know a lot of people know this one episode for one reason and one reason only. We touched on it before, but it's the whole Adira part of the episode. The Adira and Stamets part. Like,
Yeah.
it was met with a lot of mixed discussions. And there's something I'm going to read here in a minute once we get through this, but I don't see why people can't enjoy, like, why people haven't enjoyed that episode for what it was, and they just have to go to Adira and Stamets. Like,
Yeah.
it's a beautiful Frakes episode. He did so well, and it gives us like, it gives us the whole reasoning behind where we get to. I mean, you think about it: a Federation ship launches a ship at another ship, right? If you're on that other ship and you've got a Federation ship launching a fighter towards you, surely you're going to think that is a Federation attack. Not like, oh, why is this other ship coming out of a Federation ship and now they're deciding to shoot at me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Heat of the moment, that's a Federation attack. Straight up. Just done. Like, you know, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. So we've got the build there. We've got more on different planets. We've got more storytelling. It's the build up. It's a whole... For a filler episode, it did so well.
Filler. Savage.
I'm using filler very, 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 very broadly here because I'm quoting people in the IMDb comment section here.
Oh my goodness.
But I want to read that. This is a little long, but I don't know if I want to send it to you to read it, but because you would do better
Go
at reading
for
it.
it.
But like, actually, yeah, I'm gonna send it to you because you would do a hell of a lot better at reading this out. But I think this probably makes like the best point of the whole thing. It's like, it's on the Adira Stamets discussion. Ah, Jesus. Okay, I can't send it to you because it's over a freaking long. It's over Discord's thingy limit. So
Green coffee.
this is actually, I think I can see. We were prepared. It's a nice little.
If you've listened this long, message me. I'll give you a medal. I'll give you a picture of Michael Burnham.
I will print you a freaking medal if you've made it this long.
Oh my goodness.
Do you want me to read it?
Okay, no, it's fine.
Are you sure?
The full thing. I'm to read the full thing.
Yeah, I think it'll probably be something that'll be worth a full read. It's up to you if you want to skip some parts.
Sorry, skim reading it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh god, it's by someone with a Back to the Future
Yep.
username as well.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so this is by Great Scott Wrong Decade. And it says, "Thank you, Disco, for the trans non-binary rep our media so desperately needs. I'm appalled to see that so many people feel the need to give a low rating and negative review, all because people like me, who often get treated like we don't exist at all, or as some kind of hostile, insidious force pushing an agenda on everyone, is getting some visibility. I pity anyone whose knee-jerk reaction to hearing they/them pronouns and being shown as trans people on screen is one of disgust and intolerance. You are not being attacked. Open your hearts and minds. You do not need to understand us to simply respect us and accept that we have always existed alongside you. The only agenda we have is to be seen, heard, respected, and celebrated as the wonderful, strong, compassionate human beings we are. You have no idea what it means to us for our existence to be validated in popular media." And just to clarify, because I saw it mentioned in another review, Adira said they've never felt like a she or a her, meaning throughout their whole life, those pronouns haven't sat comfortably. Adira hasn't been a Trill Parasite host their whole lives. The parasite has nothing to do with their preferred pronouns and gender identity. Adira has always been non-binary, separate to the effects of the parasite. As to the episode itself, I don't really understand why people are saying it's bad. It was more about character development across the board than plot development, that's all. Doesn't make a bad or boring episode or a waste of time. I quite enjoy a breather with more focus on a character instead of just plot week after week. Besides the citing non-binary rap, I thought this was a great episode overall. By the way, if you all hate this series so much and think it's the worst show on the planet, why are you still watching it? We're past the halfway point of season 3. Surely it hasn't taken this long to figure out it's not for you. Please go spend your time and energy doing something nice for yourself and your loved ones instead of hate watching a series loved by so many so you can crap all over it on IMDb and drive the ratings of a show you don't even care about into the ground. Peace.
And I think that basically covers everything that we was wanted to say at one point. Like, just all of that in one covers so much.
That is an absolutely brilliant review.
100% agreed. Like, it literally gives you everything you need. Like, the amount of downvotes or like bad reviews here that are literally, a lot of them are based around the fact that we have a trans actor in the show and the pronouns moment. There's literally, like, there are so many reviews in here about that. It's like, why do we need to do this in Star Trek? Why does Star Trek need to have a such an emphasis on a trans character? Why does it need to be thrown out there in our face? I hate that phrase. Like, why does it need to be thrown in our faces that the actor or the character is trans? It's like, well, would you not want that story told? If that's the part of the character, would you just want to leave out a very pivotal part of the character? It's like, one of the arguments that a lot of people said, if you're not paying attention, or you don't read the backstory, or you don't read who the person is that's playing the character and why it means so much, is if you're just like a fan who likes the show and you don't read anything else, you could be like, oh, Adira says they because Adira is including the symbiont.
Yeah.
Which, I guess, yeah, sure, pass, thumbs up. You kind of have a rough idea that that's your own take on it, though, so it's not like, it's not what's intended. But sure, if that's what you're happy with. But the true meaning behind it and the reason why it was as impactful as it was, I mean, I think you said that you didn't quite get behind the way it was done the first time you watched it.
Yeah, I had problems with it.
Why was that?
I don't. Well, I've since gone past that, and I've realized that, okay, it makes sense in a real world sort of context, if you will, like, because if that happened, I don't know. I know it was for audience benefit.
Yeah.
I know that, but like when I first watched it, I was kind of on the fence of like, well, it's the future. There is no need for any pronouns.
I think that was
you would simply exist.
I think that was Pig's argument to it as well. Like, I know we keep mentioning Pig. Me and Pig talk about this stuff a lot. We're getting Pig on the show at some point because it's gonna be quite fun. We're gonna have Janeway taking on Pig to do with Voyager. That's gonna be a very interesting show when we do that one. But the discussion behind it and the reason why it's so meaningful, as touched on in that beautiful review, is there's more representation now than there was before. It's out there. It's something that Star Trek has always done, and every single time they've done it in such a way that it's meant something to the people watching it as much as the people playing the characters. It just so happens that this time around, they're representing another community that doesn't get as much representation.
Yeah.
And...
I mean,
sorry, go on.
I was just going to start talking about previous attempt, quote unquote, at this.
Yeah.
If anyone listening has ever seen TNG, which I imagine if you're watching Discovery, you quite probably have done. There was a lovely episode in, I think it was season 5, maybe around the midway point, called The Outcast, and that was a fun episode. That was about a race called the Janai, which were an androgynous race, and Riker meets one of the members of this race that wants to be binary. They are a girl they're a she, and you know they're basically she's like, oh, I can't go back to my race because it's a crime.
Mm.
It's a crime to be one gender in her society,
Which is
and
shocking.
they basically fight for her. I know, right? Gender humiliating.
Tell me about it. Gender's the worst thing
and-
ever, apparently.
and they basically fight for her. And yeah, that's what everyone loves to bring up when they're bringing up this particular episode of Discovery, is that, and also the Enterprise episode Cogenitor with
Yeah.
the third gender.
Yeah, I was having the discussion with my mother about it earlier. The fact that, as you said with the TNG episode, it was a case of you see that, but it's not non-binary in the sense of what we know it to be. It's the fact that it's just like a conformity thing. It's not I think of the right way of putting it, but it's like that's more of a conformity of the way the planet is. They don't know any different because that's just the way the planet works, rather than non-binary by any other sense. So the argument's not valid as to it being like the first real kind of like inclusive episode of that in that respect. I guess the same with the Cogenitor episode.
Yeah, both of those are not good trans allegory. They're not. I should probably mention this. I myself am trans. I use he, him, or they, them pronouns. It doesn't really matter. But yeah, for me personally, this episode really hit home, and those two can absolutely get in a bin. I hate those two episodes so much, and I know I'm not alone from what I've seen of people talking about those as well. They're just not good trans rap, and this one it's good. It's a nice story between Gray and Adira, and Paul and Hugh to some extent. That sort of little quartet we've got going on over there.
Yeah. Like, from my point of view, as like looking in from the outside, as well, just a normal regular guy by what most people would describe it as. I hate that phrase, and I can't believe I said it. I apologize. I'm just a normal regular guy. I'm a real boy. Yeah. You know, just from an outsider looking in, like I sat there and watched the episode, and having, what was it, the second we finished watching it, or the second one of us finished watching it, the other one texts the other one, and it's like we had a whole discussion about this episode, and a lot of it centered around that one particular moment. And to see your reaction change from when we first spoke about it to as we've talked about it as time's gone on, it says that, like, it says a lot. Like seeing the real shitty reactions on like comment boards and everything like that, and then getting the positives from the review, or like hearing your point of view or hearing other people's point of views. It's like it's always going to be like the polarizing part of the episode. I think like of this one episode of Sanctuary is always going to be the polarizing part, not the rest of the story.
That one dark scene, isn't it, that everyone's going to think about?
Yeah, it's going to be for better or for worse, and I say for better or for worse because, you know, there's going to be the people out there that are going to have their opinions. Some people will say that it was unnecessary. Some people will say that it wasn't needed. Some people will say that it definitely was needed. Me personally, I love the fact that they had something in there at some point to address it, and I love the fact that it's a conversational piece, because if you're not talking about it, people aren't learning, and if you're not learning, then what the hell are you doing with your life? You need to learn new things as much as possible, and if you're learning about other people's lives and other people's identities and everything that comes with it, that's brilliant. And if this episode sparks that discussion with a friend of yours who is non-binary, or who is trans, or is anything within the LGBTQ plus community, then it's done its job. Having just that one point that sparks a conversation, I think this episode did a great job with that. Like it sparked a conversation between me and Pig, it sparked the conversation between me and you and quite a few of my other friends. And for a Frakes, like, you could tell that it was a Frakes episode as well, because it was done in just the right way that you would expect him to tell it. It was told in like an old school fashion and done without offense, I think.
It was very cinematic, I think, and that's how you. It's a telltale Frakes episode is that there's a lot of chat, and there's a lot of deep, meaningful scenes and beautiful scenery and camera work, and
Oh, yes.
he always does scenes justice. So in a way, I am very extremely happy that Frakes got his hands on this one.
Oh, heck yeah. I mean, we also we also get teeny tiny scenes with, you know, Huber and Giorgio in sickbay. I think they're getting on more about the story of that, but continue. Sorry, I had to get that while I remembered that bit.
That's all right. Yeah, no, Giorgio is very worth talking about.
Always.
But yeah, this like watching Scavengers as well. I was in love with this episode way before we even saw the Adira Stamets scene, because I was just like, it's a book-centered episode. I love that. Like,
No,
I'm
that
all
was
for
brilliant.
that.
Like, just like we said, the episode entirely was just like, it was worth it. Like, it was such a good told story. It was done so well. Like,
I'm still on the fence about the whole the Adira scene, because part of me is still kind of like, in a way have they done it for brownie points, sort of being like, oh, look at us, we are very inclusive, but then part of me is like, Star Trek has never been like that. Star Trek would not be like that, but that's how some people seem to have viewed it.
yeah, I was gonna say, because, but then would you sit there and say the same about the first interracial kiss? Would you say the same about all of the other groundbreaking stuff that Star Trek's done over the years? Is it just a look at us, gimme, we're doing this for the attention because, hey, look, we're inclusive? Or are they doing it because it's something that they believe needs to be done, and done in the right way?
Exactly. My thoughts exactly, because I think the reason people don't have a problem with the whole Kirk Uhura kiss is because that's their Star Trek. The people that are inherently getting mad about this particular episode and this particular series of Star Trek is the old school fans, the TOS, TNG, DS9 fans. I think they're the ones that you see the most of, sort of keyboard warriors.
Or more specifically, the ones who grew up with them rather than being able to have the luxury of watching them on Netflix and stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
It's the I'm offended on behalf of the people who should be offended crowd, rather than the people who, if anyone's going to be offended, is the people that it's included for. It's the, I'm a friend of this person, so I'm going to be offended on their behalf. Let me get to my keyboard and type furiously on the internet and be annoyed. And because if that was the case, I'm sure I would have sat there and done the same thing. And I would have sent you a message going, I'm extremely offended on your behalf that they did this scene with Adira in this way, and it shouldn't have been done like that. I'm so incredibly offended. And then you'll probably send me a message and just be like, dude, chill. It wasn't that bad.
It's one of the most patronizing things you can do, particularly when it comes to like stuff like this. It's fight on other people's behalf.
Exactly. And it's like
it's not like in the sense that like, oh, you can't stand up for it. Like, that's valid, but like if you're gonna use the whole like, sort of, well, I have trans friends, I hate that. Yeah. And that's what a lot of people seem to like. I saw in the replies and like sort of they're over it, because I knew the moment I saw this episode, the moment I saw that scene and I heard Adira go, they're facts, I was like, oh no.
That's where we know that there's something going on.
The internet is going to explode. And it did.
Exactly.
But there was a lot of a positive outpour as well. I did like that.
I have to admit, I think the positives far outweigh the negatives of the entire scenes and the reactions. Absolutely. Because there's people out there that have a big brain that know that it's just a TV show, but it's a TV show that is doing things that it's always done, and it's always been there to show relevance for specific situations when it's needed to. It's dealt with so much, and it's done it in such a tactile way that the way they've done it is the right way. I mean, like we said, when we first started talking, we had the same discussion. You told me that you are trans, and I did not give two shits in the politest possible way. I was just like, okay, it's not going to make me judge you in any other way. I know you as you, and I'm not going to say fuck all, because it's not my place. Yeah. I accepted you for the human being that you are, And that's all I really like. If people can literally go, okay, you're still a human being in my eyes, that's all that matters. You know, you're not some like pus-filled green blob the second you've told me that you're trans. That's trans people, you know, the second you don't, if you're acting like that, then get out the fucking airlock. If you're treating someone differently just because of that one particular, go away, stop listening, please turn off now and just don't come back. But
it was like, I don't know if like anyone else probably, if they've been through the sort of like whole having to come out thing, because that shit is terrifying.
I
like,
can imagine.
No matter who you're doing it to, like whether it's like your closest friend or like a stranger on the internet or a group of 1,000 people, it is just about the worst fear I've been through in my life. And to just sort of like see Adira at breaking point, it seemed, when they just sort of dropped that there fast. It was never like, hi, can I talk to you? It was just an instant correction.
I was gonna say, because pretty much up until that point, I say she in context here, was being misgendered. Like, everyone was referring to Adira as she at that point.
Yeah.
So, Freudian slip on that one, but yeah, like it was literally that. What just happened with me in that brief second of brain going bleh? That's basically all Adira was hearing. So that snapping point is kind of understandable, and the fact that it happened the way that it did, I think that was kind of, I can imagine if you had that happen, it would probably be the same thing, right?
It is, it's awful. Like, you just get to a point where you're like, well, I'm gonna have to say something eventually or it's gonna get really bad. And you could see that in Blue Dabaria's acting, and I think it was because Blue themselves had gone through sort of like the whole coming out thing as non-binary, and
yeah,
I think that was sort of like a nice little thing to have a non-binary actor play a non-binary character, because you can really put that emotion into it. Like, with Grey, it was never really focused on Grey being trans. That was more like the actor was trans, but the character, as far as we know, I believe, is just a dude.
I think Adira just called him he. I don't think there was ever really kind of any nod to it or anything. So yeah, like, Adira had the biggest, I think that right there is the biggest character development of the entire season, for anyone who didn't know from the outside. And for the people, if you're still listening to this, don't worry, we are going to move on in just a moment. I know some of you don't come here for this conversation, but it's a big enough big enough topic, my apologies, to talk about at length, because it's such a, as we said, polarizing discussion. Because it could make or break it. It could make or break the entire show in just those 10 seconds for some people. Like, there's people on the IMDb saying, I'm never watching it again because I didn't need to have this. Why does Star Trek have to do this? Blah, blah, blah. And then there's all the people that are praising what was done and the way it was done and everything like that. So you're gonna have that situation of, has this changed the show for me now?
Yeah.
But I think if you let somebody's gender change a TV show for you, you're not meant to be watching that show in the first place.
I'm like, if this sort of subject is making you uncomfortable and that's gonna make you stop, you're in the wrong fandom.
Yeah.
Like, Star Trek has always been about pushing equality, like even between like alien races, if it were. Like, it's always been about equality. It's always been about like just acceptance.
Exactly. If you're feeling that this is that, like, if this isn't for you, go watch Fast and Furious. I'm sure you'll enjoy big fast cars going boom. On to big things going boom. It takes us on to episode 9. So I kind of started enjoying this because lots of you guys might know this from streams, but I'm a big fan of Mirror Universe ideas because Mirror Universe is kind of cool in certain respects. Just because I like to see it as like a big thing of like, this is what we feel, well, this is what I feel like we're starting to push towards with the way the world's going at the moment. You know, like we're gonna have, I think we're gonna turn into alternate timeline where first contact happens and people shoot the Vulcans. So somehow, like, to me, I'm kind of seeing this as being our future rather than the Star Trek we know and love. Episode 9 is Terra Firma Part 1. The Discovery crew joins a journey to a mysterious planet in the hopes of finding a cure for Giorgio's deteriorating condition. Stamets and Adira make a stunning breakthrough with their newly acquired burn data. Now this was an episode because we had a really nice flashback to an original series episode with it, but it doesn't pay off until the next episode, I think. There's a lot of things in here that I know that you wasn't a fan of in general. that was a big talking point for us because, like, I was like, damn, dude's gonna love this episode, and then you sent me that message. It's like, no, hated it. A little bit of trivia for you before we go in. An aerial view of Giorgio and Burnham walking through the wilderness in the snow shows a long trail of footprints behind them. This is very reminiscent of the first episode of the show where the prime Giorgio and Burnham walked alone in a desert. I love the fact that that's like a nice little nod back. The first thing that we see them doing just so happens to be some of the last things that we see them doing. And then if we go on our nice little goofs section, Tilly asks Saru if she should debrief the Admiral. As the Admiral is her superior officer, she would brief him, or he would debrief her, not the other way around. So the script team, they done a dumb. They did a J-level dumb, but hey, who's counting, right? So this episode gives us, it's a heavy Burnham and Giorgio episode, but mostly focused on Giorgio, which I freaking love that it was an entirely Giorgio episode, but it was a sad two-parter because it gives us the mirror universe. It gives us a guy in the snow on a chair reading a paper who a lot of people in my circles thought was going to be Q.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping it might have been Q.
Like, I was sitting there, like, as much as I adore Q, especially John Delancey, I'm sitting there going, please don't let it be Q, because why would he care? Like, why would Q care about some random woman who came from another universe and is dying? He'd just sit there and go, okay, what can you do for me? Yeah. But it took us through to the mirror universe. It gave us some really cool bits and pieces. We find out that later on that the guy that we're talking to is actually the Guardian of Forever. Was it the Guardian of Forever? I can never remember whether that was its actual name. Yes. See, I remember things. Carl. His name was Bob. But,
it was Carl.
All right, Carl then.
Carl.
All right, Carl. So it definitely sounds like something from Manchester. But it was brilliant at the same time as being a down point, because it was leading to the end of Giorgio as a regular character. So I wanna hear your take on this, because you know me, I love hearing your take on Mirror Universe stuff, because you have thoughts, and there was one specific part with Stamets that I think you adored. It was even this episode or the next one.
His little jester's speech.
Yep.
Is that what you're on about?
That is definitely what I'm on about.
I love it. It was great. Yeah, I usually I usually like the Mirror Universe. Like a lot. Like, I like every iteration of the Mirrorverse pretty much, like from the beardy Vulcans in TOS to whatever the fuck DS9 had going on. That was something.
That was definitely a thing.
But this just did not sit right with me. I hated it.
Why was that?
It was not needed. I'll say that. I don't know. I mean, it just felt very forced. Like they could have ended JoJo not in the Mirrorverse, and so many things were wrong with these. I'm gonna group sort of like these next two episodes together because it is Terra
Yeah,
Firma
I
Part
was
1,
gonna say, I think
Terra
it's probably
Firma Part
best if we
2.
do it as a double. Yeah, this is a double header on this one, yeah.
Yeah, it just felt very sort of contrived. I've used that word quite a lot for this season, but this was a very contrived episode. This made no sense to me at all. It was. I know that the cast have so much fun doing the mirror stuff, but I don't know. It just. I can't even explain why I didn't like it. I just have such a visceral hatred for it.
I mean,
I think it's because none of it made sense. None of it. Like when JoJo gets back there for the first time, and she like Tilly invites her into like the party that they're having, and everyone's like, "Oh shit, the Emperor," and then Michael just strolls in, like
yeah.
this is nothing. It's like you haven't seen her in like a while. Like, what you're not going to even acknowledge that she's there, and then JoJo goes and saves Mira Saru from like death or something, and you're like, that's uncharacteristic and dumb, and the whole mess hall can tell that something is immediately off. They're like, this isn't our JoJo. What's she doing?
It's like this is the JoJo redemption arc that they felt we needed to have, while at the same time as not really needing it as such. It's like it was nice to have because it kind of gave JoJo the story. We got screen time for the one and only brilliance that is Michelle Yeoh. We had some cool little scenes. We had just everything that I guess we kind of wanted. I think this is kind of like their way of going, hey, look, we wanted to do more with the Mirror Universe before, where it would have made sense and been relevant. These are the stories we wanted to tell, and this is our way of being able to do it now before she leaves.
Yeah, it was just very forced.
Yeah, it was like, we need to do something. We need to kind of explain what's happening to her, and this is the best way we could do it. It's like, let's bring in an old favorite. Let's bring in something that we've not seen for a very long time, and let's kind of turn that into her great goodbye, I guess.
And it was not a great goodbye. It was an average, contrived, awful mess of a goodbye. Like, why did she save Saru? Prime Saru wouldn't give a shit. He's too busy with the Emerald Chain anyway.
This is true.
It was overdone. It was unneeded exposés. That's because we're supposed to think that JoJo has now molded to this timeline. That she's more like Prime JoJo because she cares for Saru.
It could kind of be the part where they're sitting there thinking, or trying to get us to think, hey, look, she likes to act as if she's still that badass empress that nothing's gonna go wrong for. You know, she's always in control, this, and she's still that badass that she was. And it just shows that even through the stuff that she did with Section 31, even everything we saw at the start of the season, hey, it actually did start to sink in, and she actually was changing throughout the time. This is her way of becoming something better. And
a valid take.
Yeah, it kind of made sense. And this is the start of, hey, you need to save your life, so if you have to save your life, you have to start changing things. But at the same time, I have to agree with you, it was unnecessary in a lot of ways. 2
parts, I'd say, were probably unnecessary. And I think there was a lot in the first episode, sort of like, I don't know, like, what was it, like 10 minutes in maybe, that we see Michael and a fucking warmongering, a genocide loving, like, it was very, and I know they're supposed to be like space Nazis, I do get that, but it was very uncomfortably Germany in the 1940s, like, to a point where you're pushing it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, we get how bad the Mirrorverse is, but when you've hit, this is why there was only like one mirror episode every sort of franchise of Star Trek, really. because you can't push it any further than that. Otherwise, you branch into uncomfortable territory. Like, we already had the mirror universe. We already know that they're ruthless. They don't care. They'll kill anyone to get what they want. And you can't push that any further without it branching into that sort of, right, you've crossed the line territory.
Like, the mirror
And I
universe
think
is very touchy of a subject. Like you said, it's very hard to kind of like find the right balance without it pushing into too much
propaganda territory.
Yeah. And finding, like, I get maybe they were trying to do it so that, hey, this is where the Terran Empire starts turning good as best as possible. But then again, if that's the line that they were going for, it totally and utterly negates everything that we see later on with Kirk and the sort of mirror universe that we see in TNG and everything that we see in DS9. Like, if they're trying to change the mirror timeline with what JoJo's doing, I mean, even with Enterprise as well, with everything that goes on. Oh, I know Enterprise was afterwards. Sorry. If that's what they were going for, they could have done it a much better way. Because again, there's just so much there that needed, probably needed to be done differently for it to make sense for what they're looking at. Because, yeah, the story kind of made sense for what they're looking at, but as you said, the more you do it, it can start verging on the uncomfortable for people that it's extremely meaningful to. You know, I'm sure that there's a lot of people that were sitting there just going, yeah, no, that's a no from me, because that's just a little bit too much. It's bordering on, as you said, it's bordering on the TOS Germany episodes. Like,
yeah,
I still think that even to this day, if TOS was to be replayed on most national TV stations, that's probably an episode that gets left out. So
rightfully so.
These are possibly those mirror universe episodes where, if it was any more than just the two that we had back to back, and it felt more and more like you were saying, then yeah, these would probably be the ones that would be left off of syndication in like 10 years. I get what they were going for though, but it just, it was a bit too much, I think.
It felt like they just didn't know where to go with this. Like, they needed to put a mirror episode in here because they were saying goodbye to JoJo. Like, we need to have one. Like, we don't. You could have quite happily sent her off in Prime Universe quite easily as well. All it would have took is a slight workaround, some techno babble that we don't understand anyway,
which is
that we would have simply accepted.
Yeah, there's been a lot of techno babble that's been lacking in this season as well, which is quite interesting.
Like, if you're not going to tell me how book ship works, I'm not going to care that you can't tell me why JoJo can't go back to the Mirrorverse.
Exactly.
Like, I'm not bothered.
Like,
if it meant I didn't have to suffer through these 2 episodes.
Agreed. Honestly, I can't really say too much about this other than the fact that, you know, we get the stories that in between where we meet them and where everything happens. There's good stuff, there's bad stuff. There's like, I think these are one of those, you have to watch it to really get it, or for it to make as much sense as needed. If you want to know more, please go watch it. If you haven't already, it's probably the best way to put it, because otherwise you could be sitting here talking about the same thing on loop for a while and still not make much sense, I think.
There were a couple of good points, though. I'm not going to say it was all bad. Like, there were a couple of parts of both of these episodes. I'll just overlap them. They were basically the same. There was
it's like what's it called? It's the equivalent of like the first episode of TNG. It's just a feature length if you squish them together.
Oh god, Encounter at Farpoint was awful. Yeah. There was a scene in, I think it was Terra Firma Part 2. Pretty sure it was Part 2, where Michael is asked to prove her loyalty to JoJo, and she's like, "You need to kill everybody that was conspiring against me." Yeah, it is. It's Part 2 because Part 1 is where she tries to assassinate. She uses Stamets to try and assassinate JoJo, and it doesn't work.
Is this the scene in the Agonizers?
It's just before the Agonizers, because she puts Michael in there for conspiring against her and trying to get Stamets to kill her.
That was it, yeah.
And he does his little attend, all for a friend, a tale for you at Journeys. I love it. That was like, Anthony Rapp stole this episode.
And
with that
Interrupt
scene.
steals every episode, but that was definitely his finest moment of this one episode.
He had so much fun with that, and you could fucking tell.
Yes. I would love to be able to ask him how much of that was like ad-libbed, or like if he had the freedom to do what he wanted with it, or whether he had to stick very tightly to a script. Because I can imagine, like, you know, give him a little bit of leeway and it probably wouldn't be so bad.
I reckon they gave him what he needed to say, but not told him how to say it.
Yeah, that's my imagination of it. Like, I can imagine it would.
Because he has a musical background, and you can absolutely tell. Like, that was him in Rent. I don't know if you've ever seen Rent, but he was great in Rent. And that was exactly. It just reminded me of that. But it was really nice, and it was really cool. But there's a scene in part 2 where Giorgio basically asks Michael, like, to prove your loyalty to me, I want you to kill everybody that conspired with you that's left on this ship, and I want their comm badges. And then Michael she does it. She takes Detmer with her, and she does it. And she comes back to the ready room, and she's dropping the badges down one by one. And she's like, Reese, oh whoa, like that, and she's just like dropping them down, dead dramatic. I think that's a really good scene, and you can tell that Sonequa was having the time of her life with that.
Oh yeah, for sure. I feel bad that we lost Owo on that one. I freaking love Owo.
I fucking love Owo. Yeah. I think she said Owo. I'm pretty sure she said Owo. I don't know. Maybe she didn't, but there was so many names being thrown around.
And then it got to the last name.
Yeah, and she was like, "There's one name missing," and then Michael's just staring at Giorgio, and then she just puts a knife in Detmer, and that is like one of the most powerful scenes I think I've seen ever. So it wasn't all
that hurt
bad.
me to watch, because I freaking love Detmer as much as I love Owo, and that hurt me to watch. I was like, no, Michael, come on. Like,
I can't believe that Detmer thought she was safe.
yeah, it's like, of all things, it's like the one time that you think that they might take it lenient on. Like, I guess that's the thing that's good about the Mirror Universe sometimes, is that the people that you would never expect them to kill off or like have something bad happen to, this is their chance of like doing it without messing canon up. Like, this is their chance to play with your feelings and your emotions for a little bit, and then snap back and go, yeah, but didn't do anything, so, you know, everyone you love is still alive. It's just a different universe, so don't worry about it.
I think it gives the actors a lot of freedom as well, because we always see sort of like Owo and Detmer, for example, as like these very nice, happy, smiley, laughy people, and then to see them in Mirrorverse where they're just brutal.
Oh, freaking
Like that
Mirror
episode
Owo
where
is just...
Owo is fighting. Is it Reese?
I think it might
Yeah,
be.
because Burnham's like, Reese challenged Owo for her position as chief security aboard the Charon, and she's literally kicking fuck out of him. You're like, that's just weird.
It gives you that nice little bit of development with Owo, it gives you that nice little bit of development with everyone else, and it just, there's no consequences, which is both good and bad. Like, I can see people's arguments for the lack of consequences being a bad thing, but it also gives us it gives us a little bit of freedom, like less worry, bit more enjoyment of the story, and just the whole thing is just, it's more to see. But I definitely, yeah. I definitely do understand your point with the Mirrorverse and why it can be like a very, very kind of like tightrope sort of situation as far as that goes. I'm gonna move us on. Partly,
I've got one more point to make about that one.
Go for it.
Just one. Two actually. There's a very quick one, that there is a Jason Isaacs-sized hole missing in this entire saga.
Completely and utterly agree. I was very disappointed with that.
There's a 5'11" gap where he should have been, but never mind. And there is a line in the second bit where, I think it was the second part, where Giorgio says, "Come to me, my angel Michael," which is kind of like an Easter egg for anyone. It's a bit of a religious one, so people probably don't care, but I'm going to mention it anyway. It's a nice religious element that you don't see in Star Trek, aside from like DS9, which was very heavily religious.
Oh yeah, because again, other than politics, religion was a big thing that originally Roddenberry didn't want in Star Trek, if I remember.
Probably, but for anyone who's read their verses of the Torah, like myself, there is an angel called Michael in the Torah, and Michael is known as the guardian and watcher of the people, and it was just a nice little reference, because that's in essence what she is to Giorgio. She is the watcher, and she is the watcher over the ship as well, because she's basically everyone knows Burnham. Burnham watches over the people of the Mirrorverse, and there's a nice little touch. I don't know if they did it intentionally or not, but just the phrasing of "Come to me, my angel Michael," because that's what a lot of it is in the Torah is people pray to the angel Michael for guidance and help, and that is kind of what people do to Burnham. They gravitate towards her for help, and to some extent that is prime Burnham as well.
Yeah.
Like Adira goes to Michael, and Tilly goes to Michael, and even to some extent Saru goes to Michael.
Yeah, no, I would definitely give you that.
That was a nice little religious nod.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is the thing with you. We get so much insight into this because, like, other than your research that you do, you have all of this information that, I don't know, like normal people wouldn't really think to mention. So, like, yeah, how many people could you say would sit there and pull that line and be able to give you that much information about it? It's
Someone
very
who
rare.
has a nice life, because I have just studied my Torah religiously.
I'm gonna give you a nice little bit of trivia before we head on to the next couple. We're gonna try steamroll through these ones a tiny bit because I mean, we've been talking to you guys for nearly 3 hours. If you've made it this way through,
have we?
Yes. This has been a long one, and hey, you're a trooper, and I hope you're enjoying yourselves here. So, nice little bit of trivia for you is that the registry number on the Agonizer control panel is BRG-A1 and is likely a nod to longtime Star Trek universe creative force Brannon Braga, I think is his name. I can never get that name right.
Oh, goodness, yeah.
And a cool little thing is that the usual credit sequence has been flopped and is in negatives, showing the inverse nature of the mirror universe. I'm not gonna lie, did not notice that because I skipped the credits because I wanted to watch the next episode.
You never learned anything from Marvel. You don't skip the credits.
I always hate waiting around in the cinemas for a freaking post-credit scene. I'll watch it on DVD later. So here is where we are getting to Endgame now. This is
yeah. Nothing else to say. Hope we don't see the Mirrorverse ever again.
You know what?
That's it.
All I'm gonna say is, if we see the mirror universe, I hope it's done right, and I hope it's not like as bad as it could get. So episodes 11 through 13, we're gonna call this like one great big bundle here. So, this is where Discovery ventures to the Verbin Nebula. I think it's Verbin, where Burnham, Saru, and Culber make a shocking realization about the origin of the burn. We finally, throughout all of these episodes, have found out the origin of the burn, and what actually happened is to be revealed. By this time, the Discovery has had upgrades. They've got the new... We're not going to go into this because I could be here for hours on it. The new floating off-ship nacelles. The bigger holes cut into the freaking secondary hull, and all bar one pylon stanchion connector of the remaining areas of the saucer section taken away. We've got the new sort of like lifty screens and all this stuff. This has all been in for a while. We've neglected to mention it because, hey, who cares? It's not really pivotal. But this is it. This is build up to end of the series. It's basically one great big three-parter. Saru, Burnham, and Culber all beam down to a planet that you can only get to through very specific routes, or in Discovery's case by being able to jump into it, I think. And I'm not gonna lie, it reminded me a bit of one of the more recent Star Wars trilogies. I think it was in the last one, the very specific route to fly to get to a particular place thing. It was very, very, very story heavy. It revealed a lot, and it was all pretty much one giant holodeck mindfuck throughout a lot of it. We all know that Saru's a Kelpian, beautiful, beautiful Kelpian, and the visions that he experiences while listening to the Elder's lullaby that he hears a little later on, the hologram of the Elder, is his own memories from his home planet Kaminar, and himself at the moment he chooses to leave it. Several of the shots were reused from the short track's Brightest Star, which tells the story of how we left home to join Starfleet in the first place. It was, to me personally, it was an interesting episode. It was a good like layup to what was to come, but for me it was the start of what was going to be a letdown of the Burn story. I personally wasn't a fan of the Burn and what we heard about it later on. I will get to that, but I'm gonna let you take this one because I know how much you like these 3 episodes in general. So go
What
for
3 have we got left? I've only got 2 left.
it says 3 for some reason. It's Su'Kal.
We're on Su'Kal, right?
Yeah, we're on Su'Kal, and then we've
Okay.
got I do not have my list. Basically,
Hope Is You Part 2.
yeah, There Is a Tide, and then The Hope Is You.
Oh, I'm missing a page. It's fine. Yeah, Su'Kal. First of all, I'd like to point out that this episode, I believe, is the one that was directed and written entirely by women. I love that.
Think so.
I love that so much. That is power, and it was such a good
directed
episode.
by
as
Norma
well.
Bailey, yeah. And oh no, Brian Fuller was one of the writers of it. I don't know if that's the entire series or just this episode, but yeah. Sorry, carry on.
There's that scene as well. I think that's in Su'Kal, where they're at the wake of Jojo, and we get that really nice sort of scene between Stamets, Adira, and Grey, who Stamets can't see but is there anyway. Where Adira feels very alone, and then Stamets is like, "We're your family now. You're just as much have a right to be here mourning her as we do. You didn't know her, but we're your family."
Yeah.
And it's just a really nice little scene.
It's where we get like the introduction to the four-way family thing. Just that nice little happy family that just evolves from there. It's like you don't expect much from it until that, and it's like it's such a nice little thing to happen. It's out of nowhere, but it's done in such a good way that out of nowhere was brilliant.
I liked that when they got down to the planet that it changed their species. I thought that was quite a cool little random thing that they could have done.
Like it was really nice,
but it made no sense.
Yeah, I can get that. Like it made sense in certain respects, but it definitely made no sense in the entirety. Because I don't think there's ever been a time where you've gone to a holodeck and it's changed your appearance just by stepping in there. It's part of the program to change it.
It was more like there's a bit where like Michael's she I think she looks at Q and Q's like, what? And then Michael's like, oh, you're a Bajoran, and it's like, how does Michael know what a Bajoran looks like?
Exactly. Like I don't get that.
She could have run into one like when she was in a time as like a courier and stuff, but like the Federation didn't encounter Bajorans or Cardassians until like the 24th century, something like that, 25th century.
Until at least TNG.
Well after Discovery.
Yeah, at least until TNG because of Ro Laren and that lot.
Yeah, and Gul Masat. So surely.
Yeah, it's a very strange thing. Like I think it was just another fan service thing, wasn't it? It's like, you know, because we get all of the characters as different species. We get human Saru. Doug Jones finally gets to play a character using his own face.
He got a breather. He woke up that morning and just put clothes on.
He must when he got told that, he must have sat there in that meeting and just been like, oh, I can sleep in. Like he doesn't
literally got a lie in.
Yeah, he doesn't have to wake up at like 7 in the like 7 the previous day to start the makeup cycle. Like the man must have just been so relieved that he had a little bit of time to actually be able to rest and relax. I think they did a brilliant job of the episode. Like it was confusing because why were they on one great big holodeck? But then it gets explained away very easily. I think it worked. I'm trying to cut down a little bit on this one just because I am hazy on these last few episodes entirely because they were good. But
Buck has to get his DNA recombination as well. There's that.
That was
he goes through like, some sort of therapy for his radiation, but then you're left with the question like, but then Grudge does as well because like Tilly has Grudge and is like, it's fine, she'll be fine, and it's like this guy took his cat into a radioactive nebula. Like, call the space PSA or something.
Yeah, because Book. Like, why not? Like, that's the perfect move for him, apparently.
I told you that cat is made of steely stuff. And there's the Stamets has his interrogation in the spore chamber as well.
Yeah, it's a very
And
big episode, isn't it? Because like right at the very end,
too
we
many
see
things happened all at once.
Yeah, it takes us back to the start where they're trying to just end every story as quick as they can. It sees Discovery being captured by Osira and the Emerald Chain right at the very end, and you're like, oh no, what's gonna happen? I think that's when we see Discovery jumping away with Osira on it, like in tow, or that's like at the start of the next episode. But
yeah, we do. I think she's on board at this point.
yes, because that's where we lead into the next episode that comes with it
And
is
Discovery has cloaking tech finally.
yes. The amount of freaking things that we get. Like, this is the thing. There's all these tiny little things. Like the next episode, There Is a Tide, is where Osira captures Discovery, seeks a meeting with Admiral Vance, while Burnham and the crew must overcome unimaginable odds as they attempt to regain command of the ship. This is also while, you know, Burnham, Saru, and Colbert are down on the planet still.
Is this the episode that has your favorite line of dialogue between Osira and Vance?
I think it is, yeah.
Is this the episode?
I do believe this is. It's probably the best line of dialogue in the entire series, and I'm not gonna, like, I will stand upon my hill and die upon this one with it. Like, when they're talking, like when the interrogation is going on and they're sitting there over the table and Osira is eating an apple because that makes her look like even more of an asshole. She mentions about it not tasting the same as a real apple, and then you get Vance just going like, it's made of our shit, you know. It's like, it tastes pretty good for shit. I was just like,
The way she puts it down, that gets me.
yeah, the look on her face, the way she puts it, like the whole scene, like the whole way that part was acted, it was perfect. Like, you shouldn't have an admiral swearing, but it was so good. Like,
Oded Fair gets a pass because he's Oded Fair.
exactly. Like, to me, he will always be, you know, the guy from Resident Evil, Ardeth from the Mummies, and he will always just be the guy that will get the pass because it's him. Have you seen him? Oh my god, he's going grey.
Admiral Vance.
So he's going grey. He's got a beard. His hair is short, and he still looks beautiful.
Yes.
Just, oh my god, that man is just a beautiful, beautiful man. And yeah, I will let him get away with swearing and telling Osira that the apple that she ate was made from his ship, because that is such a fucking power move right there. Like, you are negotiating with someone who's stolen a new ship that's yours, technically, and done all of this bad shit, and yeah, she has some valid reasons, but yeah, power move. It's made from my shit, you know. Tastes good for shit. It's just like, you cannot get any more of a power move than that. But I think for towards the end of series episode, it felt fillery, which is really bad, because like, yeah, we get the negotiations where it seems like Osira is genuine and wanting to help recreate the Federation.
But we weren't going to fall for that, were we?
Yeah, I mean, come on. Like, big bad guy who's basically been an arsehole throughout the entire thing even captures their ship. You really think she's actually going to make it so that the Emerald Chain can be part of the Federation and not still be arseholes? Yeah, you got.
I wouldn't have minded if they would have like just sort of sprung that kind of thing on us in this episode. But like, if we think back to Scavenger, she did it with Book. She told him that if he went back to the planet, that she would be negotiative and nice with him. Yeah. And then she surrounded him with chain members and was like, right, you're gonna die now. It's like, we know she's a backstabber. We know that. Yeah. We're not stupid.
It's like,
we weren't washing the dishes while we were watching it.
Exactly. It's one of those things where, like, there's nothing you can say that's gonna give us any means to believe that it's gonna work. And
Yeah.
for the second to last episode of the series, it felt like it was wasted time. They could have done a lot more. Like, granted, yeah, we find out more about the burn on the planet as time goes on. We find out about the fact that everything is tied to one character. It's all tied to one
shouty
thing.
boy.
Yeah, it's all tied to Sukal, where we find out that the original burn happened because he found his mother dead, and he was a kid, and he screamed, and something within him being on that planet and his scream resonating throughout all of the dilithium in the galaxy, and bang. And that's the point where I just sat there and went, really?
I still, as much as I loved this like ending, like this last episode that we're getting to, I still don't understand that. I still don't get it.
I
don't know how one child screaming creates
like
a universal reverb.
Personally, I think they missed a beautiful chance with the burn. They could have done so much with it story-wise. They could have, I don't know, they could have done it as like some go back to old school, some big Romulan plot to take over the galaxy, or because Romulans don't use dilithium, they used a freaking compressed singularity. They're black hole based ships.
And Romulans have a funky forehead, which means they're bad.
Exactly. Or we haven't seen anything from the Cardassians. Maybe have it as a Cardassian thing that backfired, or like there was so much potential. They could have introduced a whole new species that could have been responsible for the burn. But it was one screamy, shouty boy that lost his mum, and then when he thought he was being taken away from his home, he screamed again and almost caused it to happen again. It's like, it felt like a rushed cop-out. Like, it felt like they had so many ideas for what they could have done for the burn that by the time it actually came to filming that particular thing, someone sat down and went, yeah, we don't have the budget for it anymore because we got all this big CG set thing going on and all of these ideas that have happened. It just wouldn't make sense to do it anymore, so we're going to make it this one, we're going to make it this one Kelpian who's all screamy, shouty, and upset. And that was it.
Yeah.
Like, the potential for it just kind of, like, drained away in one episode. Like, all of the build-up, all of the speculation, everything that came with it, and then it was just gone.
Yeah, that's valid. It definitely was a filler episode, this, but I think it's because it was setting up major plot lines for the next episode.
Yeah, which brings us on to the 13th and final episode of that Hope
But I will
issue,
say
part 2.
about that previous episode,
Yes.
the best scene of that entire thing was the Morse code scene.
Yeah.
They're all down in the brig and they're tapping, and then like Buck's like, "What are you guys doing?" And then he's like, "I was just telling him to keep tapping."
It's like,
brilliant.
there was so many things in that episode that was really good, and I know that we've skipped through a lot of these past two, but I mean, like I said, you guys have been listening to us for nearly 3 hours. I'm sure you don't want to listen to us keep talking for another 3. And there were so many things that were misses, but there were so many hits. There's like a lot that could have gone on in that episode that would have been really, really good. If they pushed it further into earlier on into the season, I think it would have worked a lot better. Like, there was so much more they could have done, and because by this point we'd seen so little of the burn, they needed to kind of like force it all on us in these final 3 episodes. It just felt like it was way too little too late as far as that story goes, and it was just forced to be what it was. They could have done so much more. Like, this is the David Tennant regeneration scene. It was capable of so much more.
Yeah, valid, very valid. And there's a finale. This next episode is.
This is this is an iffy finale for me, to be honest. Again, this felt like they could have done this mid-season finale for me and done more. But as the Admiral Chain tightens its grip on the mystery, tightens its grip and the mystery of the burn is finally solved, Burnham and the crew have one last chance to save themselves and the Federation. It was an episode.
It was see, I liked the cause of the burn. Like, I actually genuinely loved it, and I think well, up until we got the season 4 trailer, I was hoping, oh, they're gonna carry it on, like that's not gonna be the be all end all of it. There's gonna be more like an undertone here. It can't just be a shouty boy. That's not it. There's something else lying there that we're gonna find in season 4. But as a finale, I hate it. It feels unfinished.
It feels like the sort of finale that, like, I think would honestly be like a mid-season finale if they were setting this up as a 2-part season, where what we possibly get behind the story in season 4, if there's actually a different thing behind a burn rather than just that and it was coincidental or whatever, it feels like it could have set up more to it. It just does not feel like a season finale to me.
They made a lot of errors in choice here, and I think the main choice with this episode that I don't agree with is killing Osira.
Yeah.
I don't think that was necessary. I think if you'd have taken those 2 mirror, I know I keep banging on about, but like if you take those 2 mirror episodes out of it, there could have been an episode there maybe entirely dedicated to Osira, where we see her motivation, maybe her side of things, because she might not be evil. She might, in her mind, be correct.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's correct in her own point of view usually, but like that, we needed more development. There just needed to be more. Like, Osira could have been a continuous badass throughout the whole thing, but
we could have had her in season 4 as well.
You know what it is? It's I think it's modern day Star Trek issue is that long-term storytelling revolves around one season, and then that season ends, and then everything else gets retconned. It's like, you think about it, season 1, Klingons, entirety was bad guys. By the end of season 1, everything's okay with them. Next season, season 2, we had control throughout the entire underlying story. By the time season 3's starting, control's a thing of the past. In this case, quite literally. But you never hear from it again. And then here we are, season 3, end of. We've got the burn. That's done. Osira's done. Where does it leave us now? It's the Enterprise effect. Because Enterprise was the same thing. It was like, one season we had the Suliban, one season we had the Zindi, one season we had something else, and it's just like, I think this is the problem with like all of the multi-story arcs these days, which is one of the things that I'm extremely happy that Strange New Worlds is apparently going back and doing. I miss the contained episodes. Just this episode is for this episode's sake. There's no pointer towards something that's coming. There's no underlying story. There's no like something that's going to affect an episode 10 episodes down the line, so you got to go back and watch it to make sense. I think an episode like Darmok wouldn't have made sense, or wouldn't have been as good as it was if it was done in modern day Star Trek. Same with like Inner Light, All Good Things, all that sort of stuff. If those episodes from good classic Trek was taken and put into the modern day storytelling narrative of everything has to have a broad story arc that intertwines with everything else, that I think is their biggest problem. I think they need to go back to the self-contained episodes sometimes, because it just feels like it's too much now.
Yeah, they were trying to they'd set up so many different sort of minor storylines in a way that they were trying to rush to fix them all in this 45-minute finale. Yeah, and it was not good.
I agree with you. Take out the mirror episodes, give us these. It's like, give us a 4-parter if you have to. Just extend this over like 4 stories where
take one of them out.
Yeah, even if it's just one. Like, give us enough so that we have everything that goes on, everything that works, and just give us a bit more Osira story. Give us a little bit more of this, a little bit more of that. I know we've gone off of the main subject of the main episode, but like, there's really that little to kind of pick apart on it. There's a cool little bit that on the console that Sukal touches, it has Morse code etched into the side, and the code includes the word Roddenberry in it, which is a very nice little touch for anyone who doesn't notice it. And that the end credits is replaced by the original closing theme to the original series. Like, those are cool little...
I did like that.
Yeah, I loved that, because it kind of like just gave us a nice little bit of nostalgia. But other than that, you know, like the possibilities of the crew may be dying, you know, Adira sacrifice, like, you know, but not sacrificing, but basically going, yeah, I ain't listening, and going down to the planet to help him, and all this other, like, there's bits and pieces that happened. I know we've missed a lot out, but
we've missed Captain Tilly as well for the past 3 episodes. It's just been absolutely fabulous.
Of course,
she's leading all the crew you never get to see, from the bottom of the ship to the top of the ship, and Book. And it is just the most fantastic thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
That was, I think, the selling point of those episodes for me. Like, everything else, that was the biggest selling points for me.
It gave me the vibe of, and I know you're slightly better at DS9 than I am, so you might know the name of the episode, but it reminded me of, do you remember the episode where, I think Jake, he's working with Miles, and he triggers the Cardassian defense systems, and they're in a cargo bay, but Kira and Jadzia are on the bridge, and then everything's shut off, and they've got to work together to try and like get to the top of the ship. That's
it. Yeah, you've got Miles, Cisco, and Jake working in, or was it ore processing or something? One of the old terminals. It all shuts down,
and then Julie and Kira and Jadzia are on the bridge.
Yeah, it all ends in like Ducat coming in at the end, and Ducat being the biggest dick possible by turning the thing off in the replicators, getting himself a drink, and then letting it go back to firing at him again. But then Ducat can't shut things down because it got reprogrammed because they thought he was going to be a traitor or something towards the very end. Yeah, it makes me think of that, like the whole we must take back the ship thing, and it was a very good Star Trek-y kind of like episode in that respect, but at the same time it was so little to write home about. Like, those 3 episodes were made by the crew fighting their way back, but it was predictable. The outcome was kind of like last minute feel. It felt very rushed for an end of season.
It does not feel like an ending. I feel like I deserve another 2 episodes.
Yeah,
this is not an ending.
But then this will probably be a 3.5 hour show minimum, going through all of them, and I'm sure people are sitting there just going, shut up, wrap it up already.
No one got this far.
Hey,
no one watched this far.
If you did, you deserve a freaking round of applause, because hell, it's been nearly 3 hours of us just waffling about season 3. This is gonna be a rarity. I don't think we're ever gonna do a 3-hour long show again, or especially not one where we take an entire...
Well, hopefully with season 4 we'll be reviewing them as the episodes come out, so it'll be 1 episode per show.
Hopefully. Same with Picard. There is the possibility that we're going to be watching the episode live with chat on Twitch, and then instantly after that's done, jumping into a show and doing like a live review, which will be shorter episodes for you guys to listen to on the go. 15, 20, 30 minutes depending. I mean, once we sidetrack and waffle on about stuff, so we can maybe do some more bite-sized episodes of Off the Bridge where we will do a quick review of Picard as it happens, getting chat's opinions, and possibly having Pig in with us at that point. I think we're done with season 3 of Discovery, aren't we? We're pretty much wrapped on that now.
There was no season 3 of Discovery. I refuse to believe that happened. We've still got Captain Pike as far as I'm concerned.
There you go. I'm happy with that.
So they rewrite this.
Please. Maybe we can do a how they should have of some episodes at some point.
I'll write a fanfic on how they should have ended this.
And there we go. We can have a fanfic session where you hear the story. Upcoming ideas for episodes are going to be including, we're going to be having Janeway taking on fellow Star Trek fans at defending an episode or a season or a franchise in general. So in the works for that is Q is going to be coming in and joining us for something. Pig will be
Janeway
joining us.
versus Q.
That's good. That is like the ultimate battle, and that could not have worked out any better. We're gonna have Pig jumping in at some point with the Voyager debate, where Pig will be giving his opinions as to why it wasn't a good series, and my captain over here will be defending as best as humanly possible. We might bring Ross in to do the same with DS9, or doing his Ross's top 10 episode, possibly both. We're going to see how that one goes as time goes on as well. If you guys have anything that you want us to cover, please, again, I know we've said this a few times while we've been here, please feel free to let us know in whichever section you are currently at below. I would apologize for this being nearly, just over 3 hours long, but hey, it's an entire season in one show. It's not going to be 20 minutes.
Why did you listen this far? If you listen this far, let me know what your favorite captain is on whatever comments you have, and I will reward you with a picture of Michael Burnham.
There you go. I think that's you could not ask for anything.
A true tester to see who got this far.
As always, I want to thank you guys for listening. If you have made it, I want to thank all of the brilliant podcast platforms we're on. Want to thank McDonald's. That's totally not a sponsor. Sorry, no, that had to be an old off the script reference there. We used to pretend that we wanted to get a McDonald's sponsorship.
I can ask.
No, I'm okay, thanks. And most of all, as always, I want to thank you, Janeway, because for one, this has been the longest show we've done so far, and probably the longest we're going to do.
I'm dying.
I know that this has been a very very personal in parts episode, because obviously certain things that we've talked about, and I just want to thank you for sharing, and as always, joining me in talking crap about Star Trek.
Always. I want to thank you for having me. You put up with me for 3 hours now. That is impressive. I also want to thank someone else just while we're here. A nice little sort of nod, because there's not enough recognition for this person. Does a lot for a lot of people, and it'll just be like, like props to Michael Burnham. Props to Michael Burnham. Thank you, Michael.
Thanks, Michael.
For giving us the Michael Burnham show.
You don't do enough for us. We need more.
Hopefully in season 4 you'll get some development.
Right, because it never ever happens. I just want to touch before we end, because it's an ending. Of course, we didn't mention this. Burnham becomes captain. We get grey uniforms with coloured stripes.
Oh,
which personally I think are dress uniforms after what we've seen of season 4's trailer. It's been a ride. It has been 3 hours of Discovery Season 3 goodness. If you guys want us to do this live again with the chat, which is going to come back, don't worry. If you guys want to do this live with the chat, you can join us on twitch.tv/thatmrj. We might actually have an Off the Bridge channel set up specifically. You can find us on YouTube if you're not listening to YouTube already, at that Mr. J. All of the other places. If you want to catch me on Twitter, same name, you'll find me everywhere. I would say the same for Janeway, but one of the
I don't use social media.
I was gonna say one of the very few humans left in the world that does not use social media, and I do not blame you. But until next time, it has been a journey. It's been a pleasure.
Time and space. Sorry.
That's an adventure for time and space. It's been a pleasure.
No, it isn't.
Shut up, I'm trying to sign off. Do you want this to be 3.5 hours?
Fight me.
You know I will.
Alright, shut up. Alright, shut up. Fine.
Anyways, thank you all for joining us. It has been a freaking adventure. It has been absolutely amazing. It has probably been the longest show that we will ever do. Just know, through all the shit that's going on, you are appreciated, you are loved. We appreciate every single one of you. Keep safe, and in the words of the legendary Bob Ross, because why not? Happy painting.
Hell yeah. Michael Burnham.